What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 7 Knots Chapter 131 Kakashi's training. After Haruki finished lunch, he went out to find a blacksmith shop. Although it is not the country of craftsmen, the demand for samurai is naturally extended due to the many professions of samurai. After explaining the request to the boss, Haruki received a complete set of load-bearing equipment. Back at the dormitory, he called Kakashi, "Try it." Haruki pointed to the heavy equipment on the ground. Kakashi witnessed this familiar equipment and couldn't help but think of his lifelong enemy, Guy. He uses it often. After strapping his hands and feet, Kakashi felt like he had become a robot, and his every move was kaka. Haruki smiled and said, "If you want to become a kendo master, chakra's requirements can be lowered, but the physical quality is not good." "I see." Kakashi took a deep breath. He had to get used to the sudden increase in burden first. Haruki glanced at the time, led him, and left the dormitory, feeling the spread. The Iron Country is mountainous and snowy, and quiet places are easy to find. His perception spread, Flying Thunder God technique activated, and then opened his eyes to a mountain peak. Then first run 10 laps around the mountain. Haruki took a glance, and there was a 500 to 600 meters in this circle. Kakashi has just put on the weight, so he must not use too much force to avoid hurting his body. When Kakashi heard these familiar words, he thought of Guy again. Should he shout at this time, a passionate youth? Kakashi couldn't help but shook his head, driving the terrible thought out of his mind. No matter how embarrassed he is, he will never learn from Guy. Although such a man is really scary, Kakashi glanced at Haruki, did not speak, and started running. And Haruki stared at his back, regretting not bringing Guy. If Guy is here, I think Kakashi would be more motivated. Time flies. Kakashi felt more and more that the limbs of his body seemed to be carrying a heavy mountain on his back. The more tired people are, the more sensitive they are. He is like that now. The burden that was originally thought to be borne has become unbearable. But his character itself is more tenacious and positive. There is no such thing as a dead teammate or a father or a teacher like in the original game. After 10 laps, he barely stabilized his body, and in front of Haruki, he breathed in big mouths, like a fish coming ashore. Haruki threw him a scroll. It records the details of the first class in the second day. These days you exercise first, and then remember the first class in the second day. After your body adapts, you will start practicing. Okay, teacher. Well, of course the sword art of the family can't be abandoned. In the future, you will fight the enemy and you will not be able to draw your second sword. Haruki couldn't help but smile when thinking of this situation. Someone will lie to him. I thought you had the strongest sword skills, but I didn't expect you to have a stronger sword. Kakashi felt Haruki's belly black again, but for things that are of his own benefit, he naturally raised his hands and feet in agreement. Just when he thought he could rest, Haruki dropped a green chakra on him. The fatigue of the body was wiped out. Come on, Kakashi. Kakashi grinned and started running again. So repeatedly. At night, Kakashi was directly paralyzed on the ground. People have limits. Haruki used normal treatment to prevent him from getting out of bed the next day. Chakra appeared in his eyes, and Kakashi's physical condition was in full view. Kakashi, how is it? Haruki put chakra away, and asked what kind of medicinal materials to buy him to replenish his body. It takes a lot of resources to cultivate warriors or ninjas. Although ninjas are inherently strong in the Hokage world, there are limits. It is impossible to train for endless overdrafts. Kakashi didn't want to speak. After a while, he said weakly, I don't want to move a finger. This shows that the effect is good. Haruki waited for him for a moment, and asked him to get up. The two did not immediately return to the dormitory. Haruki was stunned by Kakashi, spending tens of millions to buy various rare tonics. Teacher, this is all for me? Kakashi glanced at the dazzling array of medicinal materials, and he always felt that his life in the future would definitely be very bitter. These things don't look good. Well, you are young now and your body is underdeveloped. In order to avoid causing damage to your body, I will give you medication according to the situation. Haruki expropriated his kitchen after spending money to explain to the owner of the house. Although he is not an old Chinese doctor, he is a medical ninja anyway. Can be regarded as a superpowered doctor. Towards the middle of the night, a dark potion came out one night. Kakashi's face was full of protest. He knew that Haruki was a chef, but the decoction had nothing to do with cooking. It depends on the medicinal material itself. Unfortunately, most of the medicinal materials taste very unusual. Drink, Kakashi. Haruki raised his eyes, wondering why he wanted to laugh. Sure enough, human nature is evil. Subconsciously build your own happiness on the suffering of others. Kakashi closed his eyes and gurgled down. After drinking, his mouth opened and his tongue stuck out like a dog. It's hot and numb. Haruki patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, get a good night's sleep. He returned to the room. Tsunade was already asleep. But when he pushed the door, she woke up again and said dazedly, you are back. Haruki walked to the bed, squatted down and kissed her on the forehead. Go on sleeping. He still has some things. Sit at the table and take out a notebook. Social Investigation Report on Ninja World. Haruki was written as a diary, first recorded what he saw and heard, and then returned to Konoha to summarize. The first one is to put an end to gambling. It was exactly how he felt after going to the casino with Tsunade. Porn, gambling, and drugs are indeed the same, of course, except for the yellow between husband and wife. After all, it is legal and compliant. Other people's wives can't. The second article is about Kakuzu. The fish is unpalatable. The third chapter is about the sea. Of course, he didn't let Kakashi challenge Mifune. It didn't make sense, it was just a gift. Thinking of Takigakura, his first reaction was the tail beast. It's rare to see a ninja in the country of iron. Haruki feels that the ninja principles have a lot to learn from. Although the current Mifune is not comparable to the strength of the Fourth Ninja World War, it is not inferior to any Jonin. Haruki thought slightly, maybe it was Takigakura. Speaking of Konoha Sanin's nickname is pornography, gambling and drugs. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Haruki intends to train Kakashi before meeting Mifune. At this moment, Haruki raised his head, came to the window, and on the roof of the house far away, a ninja was running fast. Did not abide by the ninja code at all. Ninja? The fourth chapter is the country of iron, but it is not written. To be honest, tailed beasts are really wasteful in such a village. Before doing something, you must not be too impulsive, and you must understand clearly to avoid getting into trouble. Chapter 132. Another window opened. Haruki turned his head to see Kakuzu's head expose. He can live so long, relying on calmness and caution. With his strength, he can naturally detect that there are ninjas outside. But when he saw Haruki, after a slight silence, he closed the window again. Haruki raised his eyebrows, but said nothing. When I was about to go back to sleep, I suddenly found this ninja running towards this lodging house. He performed an illusion. After a while, the female ninja arrived in front of her. Around 20 years old, he is not very pretty, but he is also pretty. Without wearing a special ninja suit, I can't tell which ninja from Ninja Village is. It was late at night, there is no one on the street. She swept the dormitory, jumped up, and reached the second floor. He knocked on the window, and a handsome young man opened it. Seeing her, she immediately showed joy. The two embraced each other. The window was closed, and Haruki didn't look at it again. After all, he is not like Sarutobi Hiruzen, who has a strong desire for voyeurism. Haruki went to bed quietly, lying next to Tsunade, then turned around, hugged her soft and plump body, and fell asleep. The next day, Haruki opened his eyes, and after lying in Tsunade's arms for a while, he got up and opened the room. The morning in the house was very quiet. He walked down the corridor, going downstairs to find the boss or waiter and order some breakfast. Suntri. Kakuzu opened the door and called him. Hey, the sun came out from the west today. How would you say hello to me? Haruki pretended to be surprised, and said jokingly. A black line appeared on Kakuzu's forehead, and he really couldn't understand Haruki's character. There are good times and bad times. He glanced at the room on the other side, which was where the female ninja and boy were last night. And Kakuzu's next sentence really surprised him. The female ninja is dead. Died? Haruki and Kakuzu subconsciously looked at the same room and asked, why died? Perhaps it was done by a teenager. Kakuzu groaned for a moment and said, I usually stay very vigilant when I sleep. Just 2 hours before, I heard the noise and went to take a look. Strange, you don't seem to be a nosy person. Haruki was a little surprised at the death of the female ninja, but he didn't plan to delve into it. After all, it has nothing to do with him. It stands to reason that Kakuzu should think so. She has a familiar smell in her body, it may be heroic water. Kakuzu hesitated, then said, with the strength of the clear tree to reach the sky, you don't need the water of heroes. Similarly, it is not easy to lie to him. Oh, the treasure of Takigakura can increase the chakra of the ninja. Haruki suddenly said the knowledge in his mind. It should be said that hero water is quite famous among ninjas. However, Takigakura's strength is not weak, and there is the tail beast Jinchuriki, and ordinary ninjas don't have the mind to snatch. And non-ordinary ninjas are not used at all. It is said to increase chakra, but the specifics depend on the person's physique. But Haruki thought of Kakashi and became interested. He directly pushed open the room. There was no one inside, only the corpse of the female ninja. Haruki knew at a glance that he had died of poison. The astonishment on her face has not even disappeared. It looks like a murder for treasure, Kakuzu sneered, not surprisingly. He has seen too many such things. Let alone lovers, even brothers, father and son can turn against each other. The world is bustling, and only money is eternal. Haruki sighed. A ball of flame burned the female ninja's body. Soon his perception spread. There are many tracking ninjutsu in Hokage, but at his level, the range of perception is extremely wide. After a while, he grabbed Kakuzu, the space flashed and appeared on an avenue. The boy was running away on horseback. He is not a ninja. It should be said that chakra is very rare and not enough to be a ninja. Haruki quickly noticed his physical condition. Perhaps that's the case. He met a ninja from Takigakura, and when he heard of Hero's Water, he encouraged her to steal it and then kill and snatch it. Hey, Kakuzu, let's do it. Haruki glanced at Kakuzu, he didn't even bother with such a person. Kakuzu dropped his body. After he experienced Flying Thunder God technique, he had no idea of running away. I'm afraid I can build the heart of a ninja with time and space. But this one is so rare that he has almost never met it. Who? The boy noticed the Kakuzu in front of him, his mind tightened. The main reason is that Kakuzu's outfit is too bad. It would definitely not be the case when it was replaced by a sunny tree. Kakuzu was too lazy to speak, his right arm hardened, and he hit the boy's head with a punch. Searched his body and found a bottle of pure water. He opened and sniffed, the familiar smell made him nod. Market price, 1 million. Kakuzu looked at Haruki who came by, if you want. You can really do business. Haruki couldn't help but smile. He touched his chin and asked, anyway, you can't beat me, why can't I be a prostitute? Kakuzu's heart beat and said, I'll ask first, we will discuss what you said. Haruki finally understood the character of Kakuzu. It really is the charm of money, he didn't say anything and paid. Kakuzu was surprised. He was mentally prepared, but he didn't expect Haruki to actually give the money. In this way, this guy seems pretty good, but then he shook his head again, wary telling himself that he must not be deceived by sugar-coated shells. What he wanted was the freedom to make money. It's a pity that he doesn't understand that it is too difficult to stand up and earn money in this world. After Haruki got the water of the hero, he went back to the lodging house and called Kakashi. Drink it. He has been checked to make sure there is no toxin. As for the effect of increasing chakra, it depends on Kakashi's good fortune. Kakashi held the bottle of hero water with no products, glanced at Haruki hesitantly, and poured tons and tons into it. After a few seconds, he opened his eyes wide. The effect is still there. About in his early 40s, his hair volume was a bit low, and the Mediterranean faintly leaked out. When the 6 people had breakfast and were about to leave the dormitory on their way, the storyteller I saw yesterday suddenly came up. He nodded slightly. The chakra in the body was like a kind of dry wood that had been ignited. I have seen all the adults, I would like to ask, are you ninjas? Haruki stretched out his light green hands and pressed them to Kakashi's chest. The current Kakashi belongs to a qualified and normal genin. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The storyteller looked excited. I want to pay to ask you to escort me to the metropolis. Haruki slapped him on the head. It has increased by at least 7 times. Haruki looked at the storyteller. Kakashi felt the expansion of his body capacity and couldn't help asking, are there any more? I have everything in my dreams. Very good. Thank you, teacher. Yes. Chapter 133. Vulgar smile appeared on Haruki's face. He could see that the middle-aged man in front of him did not have chakra, and he was a so-called storyteller. How could he need a ninja escort? Why are we? The middle-aged man glanced at Kakuzu, who said nothing. The reason why he judges Haruki and his party to be ninjas is because of Kakuzu. One is his cold and disdainful eyes, and the other is his weird dress. Ordinary civilians would not wear this way. I see that you are so energetic, and you don't seem to be ordinary pedestrians, so I came up to ask. The middle-aged man bowed respectfully and said with a smile, because of my profession, I have traveled in various towns, and my vision is okay. If you want to hire us, you need to explain the content of the task. We judge the level of the task according to the situation to determine the remuneration. Haruki thought that there was nothing wrong now, so he talked to the storyteller. The middle-aged man sighed and told his story. His name is Yanagi Dasake. Originally by profession, he was a novelist, but he didn't make any money after writing a few novels, so he could only switch to telling stories in various lodging houses. The blogger smiled. But flipping around, a few stories are finished. When I was in distress, I met a young man some time ago and told him a lot of the secrets of Takine village. He didn't think much, and became a friend with the young man. Because of the ninja involved, his business got better. There are even dedicated readers who come to listen to his storytelling. However, until this morning, he found out that he was deceived. It turned out that what the boy told him was to attract the attention of Takigakura. Now that the heroic water of Takigakura village is stolen, they have been tracking the female ninja to this place, and they have lost the clue. But after a little inquiries, you can find him. After Haruki finished listening, she was a little surprised. Unexpectedly, the female ninja and boy's affairs last night were not over. But he basically knows the causes and consequences of what the teenager did. He probably didn't have the talent of a ninja, and wanted to become a ninja. After hooking up with the female ninja of Takine village, he became malicious. How did you learn about the follow-up content? Haruki asked what was wrong with the story, and it was logical that Yanagi Dasake could not have known so clearly that the boy had killed someone and left early in the morning. It's the letter he left me. Yanagita spoke and took out a letter from his arms. Oh, this person is extremely complicated. Haruki couldn't help sighing after reading the 10 lines at a glance. Obviously he could bear to kill the woman who admired him, but he felt compassion towards Yanagita who was framed. But Yanagita was not grateful at all, designed for no reason. If you leave now, it will arouse Takigakura's suspicion even more. Kakuzu suddenly said, Stay here and be tortured by Anbu from Takigakura village to prove his innocence. Yanagita was startled slightly, and immediately figured out the reason, and couldn't help but gritted his teeth and said, "This little bastard." Haruki turned his head and glanced at Kakuzu, worthy of being a ninja who lived a long time. A small head has great wisdom. In fact, Haruki's statement is not too wrong. Anbu torture, will it affect your head? Yanagita's face was hot and cold, he hesitated and asked. He knows that Anbu is the most mysterious and terrifying institution of ninjas. Naturally will have an impact. Yanagita was silent. If he stayed on the premise of head injury, he was a bit reluctant. What's the use if you become a fool even if you haven't lost your life? Please escort me to Metropolis of Iron Country. Yanagita gritted his teeth and said, the Metropolis of Iron Country is the world of samurai. The ninja dare not make trouble here. Besides, it is a ninja from the next country. Carelessness will cause unnecessary diplomatic accidents. Of course, the ninjas of the 5 big countries and 5 big villages said otherwise. A level mission, 1 million taels. Haruki raised a finger and said. 1 million? Yanagita couldn't help raising the volume. 1 million taels had almost reached the minimum standard for S-level missions. But the S-level is a task that can trigger wars between nations and villages. How can he, a little storyteller, The most important thing is, he doesn't have 1 million at all. We have 3 Jonins here, and they are related to Takin village. 1 million is not too much. Yanagita was stunned when he heard Haruki's words. 3 Jonin. His luck is so good. Ninjas that are found casually are actually a rare Jonin level. If it were 3 Jonin, it would be excusable to be so expensive. No, that's not right, this is not the problem now. Yanagita smiled bitterly and said, 3 adults, can it be cheaper? I may not make 1 million in my life, I really can't get it out. Stop talking. Kakuzu frowned. If it had been the past, 1 million wouldn't be able to invite him at all. Are you still bargaining with me? Do you think I sell vegetables at Kakuzu? Haruki raised his hand and smiled. What price can you pay? Kakuzu suddenly reluctantly closed his mouth. 300,000? Yanagita raised 3 fingers, lacking confidence, and asked tentatively. Also, but you have to teach me how to tell a story. What? Yanagi-dasuke couldn't believe his ears, but Haruki regretted it and nodded quickly. Although he doesn't know why Haruki wants to learn storytelling, is it that he is unhappy among ninjas? It shouldn't. Yanagita glanced at Tsunade. With such a female companion, it is impossible to mix too badly. Haruki didn't say any more. Haruki gave a light cough and said solemnly, why would I want to know such a vulgar story? Well, Yanagi-dasuke, you go on to talk about emotions. Many missions in the original Stroke Kingdom were given to the ninjas of Konoha village. For storytelling, the most important thing is naturally the story, followed by emotions. Even the country of iron is inevitably affected by the ninja. Yanagi-dasuke talked about his old profession, familiar with the road, and with great interest. Checked out with the boss, left the dormitory, went to the local ninja mission center, and accepted the mission. Ninjas can take missions almost anywhere, I mean vulgar. What did you just say? On the second day after Haruki and others left, the lodge welcomed 2 teams of 6 ninjas from Takigakura village. When he came to this world, he only watched Intimate Paradise, written by Jiraiya. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Oh, after all, there is almost no chance to show off in front of the 3 Jonin? Yanagita breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. If adults want to know, I can talk to you. But the next moment, his ears were caught by Tsunade. Haruki suddenly came to his spirits. And stories, based on my experience for so many years, there are 2 most popular types. One is the story of a ninja. Although ordinary civilians can get in touch with a ninja, few can know the specific life and secrets of a ninja. The second type is naturally men and women. The stories between, especially the secrets of the nobles, are really extremely exciting. Chapter 134. After Haruki asked Kakashi, he asked him to summoning a huge dog to be used as a mount for Yanagita. Although the shinobu, who was called Blue at first, disagreed, after Haruki Ichikan almost cut off its lifeblood, he happily picked up Yanagi-dasuke and threw it on his back. This move scared Yanagita to death, thinking that he was going to be bitten by a dog. After recovering, Yanagi-dasuke continued to talk about the professional skills of a storyteller. Before the lecture, it is best to have lyrics to attract the interest of the audience. After a pause, he cleared his throat and sang, the sky is also drunk with sakura flowers, and the clouds are staggering. The sound is beautiful, quite a kind of ancient charm. Haruki was a little stunned, he didn't expect Yanagi-dasuke to have such skills. Is this a haiku? That's right, you are educated, my lord. Yanagi-dasuke grabbed Brew with one hand and raised his thumb with the other. Haruki always felt that this sentence seemed to be a curse. However, this kind of elegant haiku is not liked by ordinary people. Yanagita sighed, none of the ninjas had 9-year compulsory education, and naturally there were none for civilians. Besides, how could a feudal ruler see civilians studying? What do civilians like? Haruki asked for the purpose of social investigation. Is such that Yanagi Dasake slapped the blue, beat the rhythm, and sang, stealing someone's wife, it's thrilling and delicious, like eating a puffer fish. Haruki twitched at the corner of his mouth. Good fellow, the world is full of Prime Minister Sao's colleagues. Vulgar. Tsunade couldn't help frowning when he heard this. Yanagi Dasake shut up immediately. He could see that the group was led by Haruki, and Haruki was afraid of Tsunade. Ahem, you talk about other things. Haruki glanced at the three Kakashi. There was embarrassment on Nohara Lin's face. Kakashi and Obito did not squint, but they were more serious than Haruki. Yanagi Dasake began to teach his experience again. All the way north. A week later, Haruki basically got familiar with the skills required by the career of storytelling, and it was just a matter of practice. He had already prepared for the story, One Piece. But it's not the original One Piece, it's added material. A long time ago, when Sage of Six Paths passed through the water country, he saved a pirate named Roger. At night, in front of the bonfire, Haruki told stories. His audience is naturally 6 people including Yanagi Dasake, Kakuzu and Tsunade. Kakuzu, who was originally not interested, couldn't help but focus on Haruki when he heard Sage of Six Paths. He lived a long time, knew many secrets, and knew that Sage of Six Paths was the true god of ninja, the fairy who created ninja and ninjutsu. Roger was born with the boundary of blood inheritance and listened to the sound of all things. He followed Sage of Six Paths and found a tree of chakra sacred on an island in the country of water. The sacred tree bears fruit. Those who eat it will be able to acquire the blood succession boundary. After Roger learned this secret, he stole most of the fruits while not paying attention to Sage of Six Paths, and fled to the water country. The water country and Kirigakure. Why there are so many blood inheritance boundaries, this is the reason. The good times are not long. After Sage of Six Paths found out, hunt Roger. Roger hid in the sea and created the Roger Pirate Group. In order to confuse Sage of Six Paths, Roger distributed the chakra fruit to everyone, so an era of pirates came. It's a pity that Sage of Six Paths is so powerful. Roger was caught and beheaded in Logue Town, but before he died, he said to everyone, "Do you want my treasure? If you want it, I can give it to you. Go find it, all the treasures are there." After Haruki finished speaking, he watched everyone's expressions. No one believes such an outrageous story. In their cognition, the boundary of blood inheritance is passed down through blood. How can it be obtained by eating the fruit? This story is quite exciting. Yanagita looked in surprise, and said sincerely, "My lord, you can find a bookstore for publishing and it will guarantee big sales." "I will think about it." Haruki smiled, he didn't tell the truth. After seeing Yanagi Dasake, he had an idea. Let the story of One Piece spread in the water country. I am adding to the flames and come up with a few examples to convince them. One is to reduce Kirigakure's strength, and the other is to see if Uchiha Madara and Black Zetsu can be brought out. Other ninjas may read the so-called Chakra Sacred Tree as a novel. But Black Zetsu and Uchiha Madara will not, because they know that the Chakra Sacred Tree is real, and the ability to eat the fruit is also real. So I can't help but run out to explore. Haruki distributed the roasted wild boar to everyone, including Blue. After eating, Bruau wailed, "It has never eaten such a delicious barbecue." Even Kakuzu glanced at Haruki. But Yanagi Dasake persuaded him to become a cook, not a storyteller, and he would never starve to death. He traveled north and south, and tasted all kinds of delicacies, but none of them can compare with Haruki's simple barbecue. Haruki smiled perfunctorily. The most important thing about barbecue is the seasoning. He added cumin. After eating and drinking, Kakashi and Obito set up a tent. The one between Haruki and Tsunade. He glanced around and smiled. Is this also in the wild? Well, what's the matter? Tsunade is unknown, so, did we not tent and camp in the wild during the war? Can this be the same? Haruki sat down next to her and stretched out her arms around her waist. Tsunade suddenly understood what he meant by the wild, and she couldn't help but sipped. You are thinking about bad things again. Where is it? Haruki leaned her chin on her shoulder and pressed her cheek against her. Isn't this a normal thing? Normal? Tsunade gave him a blank look. Open your eyes and talk nonsense. Then you close your eyes. No, there are people out there, it's not good to be heard. After all, her strength is useless. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Tsunade trembled, subconsciously trying to push him away, but couldn't push him away. Tsunade shook her head quickly, she couldn't help not speaking at all. Once she became interested, the ghost knew what would happen. The night was silent, and the moon blushed with shame. But just glanced at it and stopped paying attention. Tsunade was gagged, feeling the restraint of his clothes disappear. And farther away, the people from Takigakura are about to arrive. Chakra circulated, a faint shield covering the tent. Haruki opened her mouth and bit her earlobe. And he didn't believe that this guy would be in any danger at all. If Kakashi and the others knew, Tsunade would have died on the spot. He didn't want to do anything that would misunderstand Haruki. Only Kakuzu noticed the fluctuation of chakra. No, the more prepared statement is that Haruki is really in danger. He will only act as a crowd eating melons, and maybe give back to the enemy. Use barriers for sound insulation. Chapter 135. Kakuzu woke up near 7 o'clock in the morning. Walking out of the tent, he was surprised to find that he was alone. It is reasonable to say that Haruki and Tsunade's perception is no less than his, and it is impossible to know nothing when they sleep. The only explanation was that Haruki wanted him to solve it. Thinking of this possibility, Kakuzu frowned. How does he feel that he is not a teacher, but a handyman, letting him do everything? The most irritating thing is not to add money. Kakuzu frantically complained in his heart, and didn't dare to wake Haruki, so he had to vent his grievances at the ninja in Takigakura. A few minutes later, 6 ninjas appeared in front of him. There are 3 men and 3 women, and there is only one jonin. Kakuzu is not surprised, except for the 5 major villages, jonin is extremely rare. What's more, the female ninja who steals the hero's water is nothing but chunin, plus he has been cleansed by the top. The leading middle-aged man, wearing the forehead protector from Takigura village, was slightly startled when he saw Kakuzu. Somewhat familiar. I always feel like I've seen it somewhere. Upon seeing this, Kakuzu knew that he might have seen his portrait. After all, he is very famous in Takigakura, and he is rebellious. But he was too lazy to communicate. His hands quickly formed seals, and countless black tentacles emerged from the gaps in his body. Such a prominent feature made the middle-aged man scream in horror. Kakuzu. You are Kakuzu. Why are you here? There was despair in the words. Back then, Kakuzu alone was able to destroy the top of Takigakura village. What use are these people? He shouted without hesitation. Run! Run! Kakuzu snorted coldly, and if he changed to someone else, he might have a chance to escape, but he has 5 hearts, which is equivalent to 5 ninjas. And he was in a bad mood today, since he ran into him, he couldn't run. After 3 minutes, the battle was over. Kakuzu feels much better. I can't cure Haruki. Can't I cure you? Hey, 6 people in 3 minutes, he really is not old. At this moment, he saw Haruki walking out with a face full of spring breeze holding his waist. With Kakuzu's experience, I naturally know what happened last night. There was a word in his heart. FK. It not only expresses his feelings, but also explains Haruki's behavior, which can be described as a double eagle. Morning. Haruki looked around for a week, and there was a mess, all traces of Kakuzu ninjutsu. He actually noticed it, but Tsunade was too attractive to escape temporarily. Kakuzu, thanks for your hard work, Haruki said with a smile. A piece of cake. Kakuzu snorted softly, and he couldn't show his timidity, he could only show that he was sprinkling water at this point. Then clean up the scene, and burn the body so that the people of Takin village will not catch up, although not afraid, it is very troublesome. Kakuzu's face suddenly sank, and there is no doubt that this bastard really regarded himself as a messenger. Haruki returned to the tent again. Tsunade was getting dressed, and with her movements, she shivered, and the graceful curves were also shaking. Haruki couldn't help stepping forward to support her body. Why, it's harder for me to wear clothes like you. Tsunade gave him a blank look and pushed him away. Haruki sighed. It was 7 o'clock and there were Kakuzu and others outside. Let's do it again. It was a little too late. He can only watch Tsunade for an eye addiction. When she changed her clothes, Haruki summoning took out the storage scroll and took out a complete set of cosmetics. Last night, the makeup on Tsunade's face was all wet with sweat and it was messed up. The lipstick on the lips was so pale that it was almost unclear. Haruki stroked his chin, it was all his own masterpiece. But that lipstick is orange, which is not bad. After Tsunade finished putting on makeup, more than 10 minutes passed. Haruki left the tent, the outside was completely cleaned by Kakuzu. There were no corpses of 6 people, and even the ground was repaired by him with Earth style. Haruki glanced at Kakuzu, who was making a fire, and couldn't help feeling that he could live a long time. He felt the spread, and in this mountain range, he quickly found a wild boar. The Flying Thunder God technique was activated, back and forth. Kakashi, Obito, and Nohara Lin also got up and went to the campfire. They are 2 tents. Obito and Kakashi won, but looking at Kakashi's appearance, I didn't sleep well at night. According to Obito's character, it's strange not to make noise, maybe the 2 are still fighting. Haruki smiled, the friendship between boys is sometimes typed out. Kakuzu naturally let out the bonfire, Haruki's barbecue is indeed a must. Haruki glanced at the struggling wild boar and suddenly thought of something. Kakashi, you come and try. Kakashi, who was waiting for the meal, was stunned, looked at the wild boar, and was speechless. Do you want to evolve from a fruit ninja to a beast ninja? But he had to listen to what the teacher said, he took out a samurai sword. After the capacity of Kakashi chakra greatly increased, Haruki allowed him to practice first class for 2 days. Now there is little achievement. Kakashi stood in front of the wild boar, calm as water, and pointed his long knife at it. The light of the knife flickered. Haruki suddenly remembered a sentence. The sword light is like me, cutting all the mess. It fits the current situation very well. But the wild boar was too big and the internal situation was far more complicated than that of the fruit. Kakashi was not as relaxed as before. It took 3 or 4 minutes to deal with it. Not bad, Haruki casually boasted and started the barbecue. Kakashi breathed a sigh of relief, wiped his sweat, and Jonin couldn't help smiling. When Obito saw this, he snorted coldly, but Kakashi didn't hear him. He hummed a few more times and was finally spotted by Rin Nohara. Obito, is your throat uncomfortable? Let me see it for you. No. Yes, I'm sorry to trouble you, Lin. Obito was about to refuse awkwardly, but immediately agreed. Nohara Lin immediately came to him and stretched out her right hand against his throat. Obito was tense and stiffened. Kakashi turned his head and glanced, then shook his head. He knew Obito liked Lin. But now he, unlike the original, has no idea about Lin, he just treats her as a friend and partner. Kakashi looked down at the katana in his hand, contemplating the mistake made when he first cut the wild boar. Teacher Haruki told him that he thinks more about introspection to make more progress. Old, can't get up. Yanagita moved his body and came to the campfire. After a period of understanding, he was almost familiar with the personalities of Haruki and others. Except for Kakuzu's coldness, everyone else is very easy to get along with. Therefore, his own character is also revealed. Haruki smiled, handed him the waist, and said, "It's made up. My lord, this is your misunderstanding of me. Just last week, I fought against several Arons at night, killing them off their helmets and armor, and listening to them chanting for mercy all night." Yanagita eagerly argued, "Then do you want?" Haruki raised an eyebrow and said, "Want?" Yanagi-Dasake immediately took the pork loin. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 136 It's not a question of money. Haruki was originally Yanagita who wanted to learn the skills of a storyteller. But he soon discovered his other role, a guide. The closer you were to the metropolis of the Iron Country, the colder the weather. Finally, a heavy snowfall of goose feathers came. The world was white and vast, and there was no vitality in the green. Haruki was a southerner in his previous life and had never seen such a heavy snow. If he didn't want to maintain his image, he must have played snowball fights and rolling in the snow. If you have a mobile phone, you might have to wind up your circle of friends to show your unseen face. Haruki and Tsunade have sage body and are not afraid of the cold. However, the three Kakashi were still young and poor in strength, and soon were wrapped in cotton jackets, like three fat penguins. Night. I will teach you a little trick. Haruki prevented Kakashi from taking out the tent and laughed, in this extreme weather, building an igloo is the best. Igloo? Tsunade has lived in the country of fire for a long time and didn't know the role of igloos. She questioned, "Isn't it colder?" Haruki blinked and said, "Shall we make a bet?" Tsunade suddenly felt a sense of crisis. Every time Haruki said to bet, it proved to be torturing herself in the end. But she couldn't get used to this triumphant look, so she jumped into the trap with anger. Haruki got a satisfactory answer and started to make an igloo. His original wood style had ninjutsu for making houses, but well, there is no need to be so blatant. The characteristics of wood style are too obvious. With the help of chakra, the igloo was quickly completed. After Tsunade was the first to walk in, her expression was a little ugly and she lost again. The temperature inside the house was significantly lower, even warmer. Haruki squeezed her cheek and said comfortingly, "It's good to look good with a smile. Goodbye, I'll make you delicious food." Haruki is also a little tired of eating barbecued meat these days. He thought about it and eat hot pot today. With such a cold weather, it is dry wood and raging fire, and bashi is very good. The most important thing for hot pot is the seasoning. Haruki may not bring anything else, but the seasoning is already available. Only the ingredients took some time. Nowadays, there is heavy snowfall and game is hard to find. But everyone is a ninja, there will always be a way. Kakuzu separated more than a dozen shadow clones, searched all over the world for half an hour, and got a lot of ingredients. He didn't do it originally, but when he heard a new delicacy, he hummed and started to act. Since losing his freedom, his greatest joy every day is eating Haruki's dishes. The name is called compensation to oneself. The mouth-watering aroma curls up in the ice and snow. Haruki uses fire style, so even if the temperature is low, it will not affect it at all. He handed out the bowls and chopsticks, and asked Kakashi to cut up the ingredients and set up the plates. After the hot pot base and soup were cooked, Haruki showed them how to cook hot pot. Simple and rude, you can see it at a glance. Wow, delicious. Obito was the first to give an exaggerated testimony. The speed in his hand was extremely fast, but when he encountered the hot pot, he immediately made a whining sound in his mouth. Others are a little more reserved. He didn't speak, but his mouth kept on. Hot pot, the eternal god. Ching Shu has eaten food from many provinces in his previous life, but feels that hot pot is irreplaceable and can be eaten anytime. In addition, the atmosphere of hot pot is minimal. Seeing everyone around me sweating profusely, my appetite also increased. The hot pot meal is over. The most eaten is Kakuzu. He was looked at by Haruki's strange eyes, and without holding back, he said he was going to sleep. Haruki and Tsunade looked at each other and laughed happily. After cleaning the kitchen utensils, Haruki pulled Tsunade into the igloo and asked her to fulfill the bet. He prepared a new movement as an after-dinner digestion exercise. Midnight. While Haruki was fighting, Kakuzu opened his eyes. He wasn't awakened by Tsunade's voice. There was an enchantment, and he couldn't hear it. It was someone who sent him a letter. Kakuzu hesitated for a moment and disappeared into the igloo. About a kilometer away, Kakuzu saw a ninja wearing a mask and white coat, unable to distinguish between male and female. You took the order, why didn't you kill? When the ninja saw him, he asked, could it be that we don't have enough money? 90 million taels, Kakuzu. This is already a very high price. Don't fail to constrain. Kakuzu frowned, but he didn't care much about the tone of his speech. He shook his head and said, it's not a question of money. A big question mark appeared on the face under the ninja mask. Are you Kakuzu? Kakuzu actually told himself that it was not a matter of money. He began to suspect that the real Kakuzu had died in Haruki's hands. It's not a question of money, but whose question is it? It's the kind. Hard to explain. Kakuzu hesitated for a moment, his face was embarrassed, and he couldn't say that he was beaten up by Haruki and had to become a running dog. This is too shameful. Once known, his title of the strongest bounty hunter will be greatly discounted. How will he pick up business in the future? When he bargained with the customer said, you have been beaten violently, who can stand it? What's the meaning? The ninja suppressed his anger, I want an explanation. No need to explain, from now on, our relationship ends. Kakuzu said with a cold face. Explain a hammer. The ninja's face suddenly became gloomy, and his voice became particularly angry. Kakuzu, don't regret it, be with me. We will fight against it, and we won't have a good end. Get out. Kakuzu was unhappy at first and was threatened again, finally revealing his true colors. If you don't roll, you will sleep here. The ninja suddenly disappeared in front of him. Kakuzu stood for a moment, then returned to the igloo and continued to sleep. The next day, Haruki was rewarded by the system, and was given an opportunity to give others abilities. But he did not use it immediately, because this ability is flawed. For example, he will give Kakashi the second day first class, and he will lose the second day first class. But flaws naturally have benefits. Haruki's current strength, in fact, many ninjutsu and abilities are useless. He only needs to keep the wood style, sage body and sage mode, which is enough to disregard the ninja world. Of course, against the Otsutsuki clan, you may need a pair of eyes. After getting up and having breakfast, Haruki and others finally arrived in the metropolis of Iron Country. A city of ice and snow, white is shining with glitter. Haruki and Yanagita said goodbye and got a suggestion. If you want to hone your kendo, you can consider going to the dojo to challenge. No dojo will refuse. After all, you will lose face if you refuse. The arrogant warriors take face seriously. Haruki again thought of Hitaki Tsukumo. Perhaps he had a similar spirit to the samurai because of his sword skills. But Kakashi had better not get into this habit. After arranging the accommodation, Haruki took Kakashi to the nearest dojo. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 137 2 Days First Class, Third More. It was the first time Haruki saw the dojo in the Hokage world. In his previous life, he had been to the kendo club of the university. The venue is almost the same as what he has seen so far. Participants on the smooth special wooden floor, wearing full-body protective props, and holding wooden swords for competition. Haruki and Kakashi came to the counter. The young man at the counter looked at the two for a moment, then came to a conclusion, showing a formulaic smile. You brought your son to join the dojo, right? He looked at Haruki, ignored Kakashi, and said, to join our dojo, there are several fees. If you want to come under the master fan, you need to pay. With a bang, he interrupted his sales promotion. I saw that 3 or 4-year-old kid smashed a samurai sword about the height of him on the counter. Just as he was puzzled, Kakashi followed what Haruki taught him with a blank expression on his face and said, we are not here to learn kendo, but to exchange ideas. The young man was slightly startled. Visiting the door to communicate is an elegant way of saying that, if it is simple and rude, it is to smash the place. But he didn't feel scared, instead he laughed out loud. Little brother, this is not the time to play, stop making trouble. The young man grabbed the katana, but found that he didn't move. His face changed slightly, and he tried hard to himself, but it was still useless. I'm serious, please let me know. Kakashi raised his eyes and said with his head half turned. The youth's attitude has changed. Although he is a goalkeeper, he has learned kendo for several years. Hold on. He turned and left the counter. After a while, a middle-aged man appeared. He glanced at Haruki, then at Kakashi, and couldn't help laughing. Gueiji, your practice in the past few years really affects the dog, so you are afraid of a little kid? The voice did not fall. Kakashi drew the samurai sword and attacked it at a very fast speed. Seeing a flash of white light, the middle-aged man did not even see the trajectory of the knife, let alone react. The next moment his cold sweat ran out. The icy iron knife was already on his neck. Gueiji behind him was also stuck in place. But then I was fortunate that, thanks to my cleverness, I didn't do anything stupid. Am I eligible now? Kakashi retracted the long knife and asked coldly. The middle-aged man wiped his sweat and said with a smile, I'm the one who took it away, please. This scene was seen by many people in the dojo, and with Guzi's announcement, it suddenly became lively. Those who can practice in the dojo are all fond of kendo and have a certain rank. Nowadays, a genius boy has come to challenge his door, and he has swarmed up. Kakashi took a wooden sword, walked into the arena, and asked, "Who will come?" The tone is plain. But the onlookers couldn't help but think of two words: arrogant. "I come." A teenager who looked like 17 or 18 came out. Haruki was in the crowd without a trace. Someone acts as an announcer. Kinmoto Ichigo, the fifth dan of kendo, is the strongest among the younger generation in the dojo. But Haruki took a look and knew that he was not Kakashi's opponent. The level of kendo is fair, but the experience is so bad that Chakra has almost no experience. In Haruki's view, the samurai in the Hokage world are not pure samurai, they are more like powerful physiques. Possessing swordsmanship or swordsmanship, with the right chakra use, a bit similar to the Hyuga family. After the two people on the court bowed and saluted, Kakashi hurried forward, and the long knife made a simple crosscut. Jinbin Yija had no time to escape, and the wooden sword reluctantly lifted it up. In an instant, a powerful force gushed out. The wooden sword in his hand broke and his body flew up. Spike. The dojo suddenly seemed to be silenced, and there was no sound at all. After a while, Kimoto struggled to stand up. He has been a genius since he was a child, and he is the strongest among the younger generation, but today he has lost extremely ugly. "Get down." A strong voice stopped Kimoto's footsteps. He turned his head and bowed, shouting, "Teacher." The coming man is in his early 40s, with tight muscles and a sense of strength. "It's Master Fan, Masahiko Hiraoka, Kendo 8 Dan." Someone shouted immediately, "That kid will definitely lose." Masahiko Hiraoka picked up the wooden sword and walked into the court. Kakashi suddenly looked solemn. He could see that Hiraoka Masahiko was 100 times more powerful than the kid just now, and he gave him more power than the usual chunin. "What's your name? Where is the teacher?" Masahiko Hiraoka didn't do it right away. He was curious about which dojo trained a genius of 3 or 4 years old. "Kakashi." Kakashi didn't answer the last question. He picked up another wooden sword. "Second sword style?" Masahiko Hiraoka looked at him in amazement. The difficulty of the second sword style is definitely much higher than that of the one sword style. Kakashi was speechless, and the two swords set their posture. It was the first-rate gesture in the second day. Masahiko Hiraoka and the people in the dojo were once again confused. No one has seen or heard such gestures. Is it a new genre? Masahiko Hiraoka finally got serious, facing a new and unfamiliar genre. His confidence in his heart also weakened a lot. Kakashi jumped up, and the long sword cut out at an angle to the right. The short sword shook slightly. The blue ripples stretched from bottom to top. "Chakra?" Masahiko Hiraoka raised his eyebrows, and the samurai sword in his hand quickly went down, wrapped in the same blue air current, and after shaking the short sword, he took advantage of the opportunity to withstand the fallen long sword. The immense power surprised him slightly. Kakashi is not inferior to Chakra. Damn, where did the monster come from? Masahiko Hiraoka thought so, but he didn't dare to slow down. He adjusted his posture again, and the katana roared fast enough to form an arc of blue moonlight. Kakashi flew upside down, but he spun to the ground in midair, staggering a few steps without any damage. He plans to find an item that can store chakra, such as gems or something, and put it on Kakashi as a storage battery. But if there is a tail beast, is it too wasteful to play kendo? But he is young after all. Haruki frowned slightly. There was a boom. Speaking of this, he missed the tail beast a bit. Kakashi rushed up again, and Hyoka Masahiko entangled. As his second-day first-class performance gradually emerged, the people present finally determined that this was really a brand new genre that had never existed before. Haruki thought for a while, and found a way. Kakashi stepped back, and the two swords made a very simple quick blow, blocking the katana. The smile freezes. I don't know that Masahiko Hiraoka's knife came from a flash in the Ido. If you get a tail beast charger for Kakashi, you don't have to worry too much. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. It makes the Sichuan opera face changing for the crowd on the sidelines. It is estimated that after playing this game, it will be unsustainable. Kakashi and Hyoka Masahiko were very satisfied with the split, but it also revealed his weakness, chakra lack. Chapter 138 Danzo is furious. Fourth, Kakashi let out a breath. In addition to making his chakra a little unsustainable after the long battle, there was also a feeling of weakness everywhere in his body. But Masahiko Hiraoka is no better than him. One of them is young and the other is older. The endurance is not as good as that of a 20-year-old youth. Kakashi's breathing gradually stabilized, and he bowed left and right, holding two wooden swords. Did not speak, but Masahiko Hiraoka already understood that this was the last move. He quickly made a defensive posture. Kakashi narrowed his eyes, and he rushed out. There was a faint flash of thunder on his body. The long knife in his right hand cut out first. Hiraoka felt the danger, and jumped back sharply, preparing to avoid his long sword, but the speed was slow. The kendo suit on his body suddenly cracked. He gritted his teeth, and the katana greeted him. But Kakashi didn't give him a chance at all. The body made a difficult move in a narrow space, and the short sword crossed, and he didn't know how many knives were shot in an instant. Two people are divided into one. Kakashi glanced at him, threw away the wooden sword in his hand, and went back to Haruki without saying a word. When the crowd of onlookers didn't know what happened, Hiroka Masahiko's mouth sounded pain. The clothes in front of him were torn apart, revealing the muscles inside him. After being repeatedly hit by the wooden sword, it has become swollen. The outcome is clear at a glance. They looked at Haruki and Kakashi in awe. It is no longer a genius to be able to beat Hiroka Masahiko, it is simply a monster. Haruki put his hand on Kakashi's head and healed his body. Although it was a wooden sword, the skin under his clothes was also a variety of red marks. Let's go. Haruki didn't have the so-called cruel words after victory, turned around and prepared to leave. Wait a moment. Masahiko Hiroka stopped the two of them. He took a deep breath and said, I am not a master in the metropolis of the Iron Country. If you want to continue to challenge, you can go to the samurai dojo. Thanks. Haruki waved his hand. What genre does Kakashi use? Seeing that he continued to leave, Hiroka Masahiko hurriedly asked. First class in 2 days. After Haruki finished speaking, he left the dojo. He did not continue to challenge, mainly Kakashi's chakra problem. After inquiring, Haruki bought a special chakra gemstone, made it into a necklace, and infused it with several cards of chakra, which was almost equivalent to 7 or 8 jonin. The next day, Haruki took him to the samurai dojo. This is a dojo related to the samurai forces of Mifune. Simply put, it is equivalent to a ninja school, a place dedicated to training samurai for the Iron Country. Of course Haruki was not so arrogant this time. In the name of friendly communication, let Kakashi challenge one by one. Every time it happened to be a little bit stronger than him. A week later, almost all the dojos in the metropolis knew that a 4-year-old super genius had come to challenge in the samurai dojo with a new genre of 2 swords. The country of Iron is proud of its samurai. The importance of kendo far exceeds that of other countries. Plus Kakashi has too many bursts on his body, younger, strong, and high in swordsmanship. As a result, Kakashi's daily competition in the dojo has become a lively event in the Iron Country. There are also casinos that have opened betting markets. For example, how long can Kakashi last? Of course no one else is idle. Kakuzu teaches separately for Obito. Tsunade is teaching Rin Nohara's medical skills while taking her around shopping. The morning of the day, Haruki went out with Kakashi as always. But just after he left, 6 jonin broke into the dormitory under Haruki. Tsunade and Kakuzu became aware immediately. But Tsunade didn't do anything, lying on the bed and continued to rest. In the end this drudgery fell on Kakuzu. He originally thought it was Takigakura, but soon felt something was wrong. 6 jonin. Takigakura can take it out, but it doesn't need to be tightly wrapped, for fear that others will recognize it. So it should be the buyer who offered a reward for Haruki. Kakuzu couldn't help but complain, what the hell is this? How did I become Haruki's bodyguard somehow? It was obviously here to kill him. Kakuzu, do you really want to protect him? The one who spoke was the one who called him out in the middle of the night last time. I don't understand how much money Haruki gave you. Make you so willing to work for him? As I said, it's not a question of money. Kakuzu exploded angrily. The wind screamed, and the scorching breath immediately filled the entire lodging house. He didn't care, and shot out in anger. When Haruki came back, he almost thought that he was in the wrong place. The original 3-story attic was turned into ruined walls. Teacher, what happened? Kakashi's spirit, exhausted from fencing, was startled. Looking around, he couldn't find Obito and others. Do not worry. Haruki expanded her perception, and soon found them in the lodging house next door. Tsunade plus Kakuzu, few people in this ninja world can beat. What's more, if his life is in danger, his diamonds should have been activated long ago. Follow me. Haruki walked straight into another lodging house. But to his surprise, there was one more person in the hall. Very familiar. In the next 3 ships. The thin middle-aged man introduced himself first. It turned out to be the leader of the 3 ships. Haruki finally realized that he had seen his image in anime in his previous life, so he felt familiar. Unexpectedly, Princess Tsunade and Haruki of Konoha village quietly stayed in our country of Iron for half a month. The second sentence of Mifune is somewhat overdone. We don't have any other purpose, but for Kakashi to hone his kendo. Haruki pointed to Kakashi, telling the truth. He is not afraid of the 3 ships, but there is no need to make enemies. Kakashi? Mifune was stunned. With a daze on his face, it turns out that it's the 2 of you, and I'm about to find you. As early as last week, he heard about Kakashi's reputation. However, due to some matters in the Iron Kingdom, there was no time to meet. Mifune can become the master of Iajon, so naturally he has an unimaginable enthusiasm for kendo. Although Iaido and kendo are somewhat different, Haruki smiled slightly when he heard what he said. The reason why he let Kakashi use the 2-day first class in addition to training him is fishing. Catch this master out. At the same time, with Tsunade's explanation, he finally understood why Mifune was here. The 6 Jonin's hands in the metropolis are indeed too arrogant. According to Kakuzu's description, he knew their identities directly. The ninja at the root. Appearance and gender can be changed, but ability is difficult to change. It happened that Haruki had a root undercover and investigated them. An underground base at the root of the country of fire. A Sema face. You mean my 6 root elites have seen Haruki's face, and they were all killed by Kakuzu? Yes, it is. Trash. A bunch of trash. Shimura Danzo was furious and knocked the desk to pieces again. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 139 My painting style is above you, 5th. The next day, Haruki and Kakashi came to the samurai dojo again. But the difference from the past is that there is one more person in the dojo, Mifune. They had a good talk yesterday. One is because of Haruki's identity, Mifune dare not do anything. The other is naturally Mifune's interest in Naiden's first class, but he doesn't think Haruki is Kakashi's teacher. Mainly Haruki's medical ninja, Konoha Shwangi has a reputation for being too bluffing. So that he didn't believe that Haruki was a great swordsman. It may be that the styles of the doctor and the samurai do not match. Master Mifune. Kakashi greeted politely. As the samurai leader of the Iron Country, Mifune's status is basically the same as that of Shinobu's shadow. It is not an exaggeration to call him that, please. Mifune also replied with courtesy. No, it should be said that this etiquette is a bit too high for Kakashi. Even the crowd around was a little commotion, and they speculated about Kakashi's inheritance. It is impossible for a 4-year-old child to make Mifune so respectful. The only explanation is that his teacher is very good. The current Kakashi does not have the reputation of copying the ninja and Konoha's first technician in the original work. People in the country of iron would naturally guess like this. The two walked into the arena. Kakashi remembered what Haruki had said to him. It is impossible for Mifune to use all his strength on him, and it is more likely to be guided discussions. By the way, he can get a glimpse of first-class kendo for 2 days. But Kakashi must use all his strength. He held the double knives tightly, and the blue chakra quickly covered it. At this moment, he heard a male trembling sound. As if a sharp blade came out of its sheath. Kakashi raised his head subconsciously, his gaze was full of swords. So fast, he only has this idea. Nice response. Rather than belittle him, Mifune praised him. Slash the entire Iron Kingdom. No, there are not many people in the entire ninja world. Kakashi nodded silently. He heard Haruki said that Mifune had fought Hanzo in the Second Ninja World War. Although it failed, it was commendable. After all, Konoha's Sannin has never defeated Hanzo. Continue. Mifune stepped back a few steps, but did not retract the katana. His Juhei Dao, also known as the Dao of Draw Swords, is the most terrifying thing about its extremely high speed and amazing explosive power. And the most powerful move is Juheisen, who just pulled out the sword. Kakashi was not depressed, he looked serious, his leg muscles suddenly exerted force, and the whole person in the double knives rushed out. 2 knife lights were pulled out in the air. Mishion's eyes lit up slightly. This is indeed a brand new genre of kendo, not a modified one. He swung a knife at random, simple and effective. After wiping 2 blade lights, it hit Kakashi's right wrist accurately. Kakashi felt his wrist numb and lost his strength, and the wooden sword came out. In the battle of life and death, his right hand has been directly cut off. Mifune smiled kindly. Seeing Kakashi running to pick up the wooden sword, I couldn't help but sigh that the geniuses of Konoha village are really endless. As for the second ninja war he participated in, there were Hitaki and Sannin, as well as the younger generation of Namikaze Minato. As for their country of iron, the fault is visible to the naked eye. If Haruki knew what he thought, he would definitely tell him that it was more than the second ninja war. In the generation of Uchiha Itachi and Uzumaki Naruto, there are not only many geniuses, but also all of them are terrifyingly high in strength. But what Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo like most is to stifle the growth of genius. After Kakashi got the wooden sword back, he attacked Mifune again. He raised his long knife and assumed an attacking posture from the previous stage. Accelerating with lightning style, a dazzling sword aura suddenly appeared in front of his body. San Shuon shook his head slightly. Kakashi's current strength caused his sword light to be too weak. In other words, it's too fancy. His katana cut an arc of sword energy in the air, turned and knocked Kakashi directly into the air. And such scenes continued to be staged within 3 hours. Until Kakashi lost his strength. Haruki stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder, then smiled and said, "Come back tomorrow." Kakashi stopped struggling suddenly, and sat slumped on the ground, panting. Haruki greeted Mifune again and took him away, and Mifune did not refuse. Miyamoto Musashi's 2-day first raid is not something you can learn in 3 hours. He had already sensed the terrible aspect of this genre, so much so that he had the idea of stealing the teacher. If he understands something, he might be able to take his strength to the next level. The crowd onlookers cheered suddenly. Mitsune frowned slightly, and immediately couldn't help but exclaimed. "What are you cheering? If you can stand under my knife for 3 hours, come cheer again." The dojo fell into a dead silence immediately. A group of uneasy guys, not even as good as a 4-year-old kid, don't even go to training? After Mifune finished speaking, the people in front of him were scattered like birds and beasts. Haruki and Kakashi returned to the dormitory without eating and resting. He first asked Kakashi how he felt, and then explained Mifune's Iaido. Since reaching the Wukong sword realm, all the swordsmanship has no secrets in front of him. The so-called one method can be used for all things, it is probably the case. Another day, Mifune keenly noticed Kakashi's improvement. Although it was only a little bit, it was enough to surprise him. These geniuses really don't give people a way to survive. He claims to be a genius in Iaido, but it is difficult for Kakashi to be like this. But obviously his surprise was too early. A month later, Mifune looked at Kakashi and doubted his life. Sometimes the gap between people is bigger than the gap between people and dogs. Kakashi, you don't need to compete with me anymore. Mitsune stepped back, pulled away, shook his head and said, you are now alone in terms of swordsmanship, and there are not many people who can match you. What you lack is chakra and age. He said so, and there is another reason, he basically understands the 2-day first class. After all, he is also a kendo master anyway, and Kakashi showed it to him for another month. Kakashi was stunned when he heard the words, and looked up at Mifune. His expression does not seem to be perfunctory. I want to meet the Lord's Aizen again. Kakashi held the wooden sword tightly. Mifune couldn't help his eyes widening. Oh, is the style too magical? Is this a swordsmanship? Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Mission pulled the wooden sword back into the scabbard, pressing the hilt with his right hand, and the whole person fell into an extremely dangerous state. Of course it only refers to swordsmanship. Kakashi took a deep breath and said, he has the chakra necklace that Haruki gave, and he can barely display it. Please. At the moment he vomited, his eyes were dim and bright for half a second, and there was a sword light in his sight, as if a beam of light fell on him. Behind him suddenly appeared a king of benevolence who looked like an evil ghost. Also, he himself felt that Mifune's swordsmanship was putting less and less pressure on him. Master Mifune, I still have a sword move. Mifune was interested, mainly because Kakashi said he was too confident. Chakra spewed out, and the necklace on his chest had no wind. Obviously I have seen my own Juhazan, can I still have such confidence? Chapter 140. Snooping into Makoto's eyes, 6th, faced with such an offensive, Mitsune still had time to complain, which proved his ease. He held his breath, his astonishing aura quickly released from his body. There was a strange neighing sound in the space between Kakashi and Kakashi. This is Mifune's samurai sword unsheathed at an extraordinary speed, splitting the invisible air, and hitting Kakashi's sword light. It was like a white dragon, whose head was chopped off. In front of Mifune, the mighty beam of light immediately stopped the forward trend. Because the follow-up chakra can no longer be continued. Kakashi's sword style lost support and dissipated. From the perspective of an onlooker, it was Mifune's random sword that cut off Kakashi's sword. But with the continuous sound of kaka, the wooden boards made of special materials at the foot of the 3 boats suddenly cracked, and countless sawdust and fragments sputtered out. He took a deep breath and slowly returned the sword. He remembered one thing. When I returned to the country of iron, I saw the amazing sword energy on the sea. It seems to be homologous to Kakashi. Although it is many times weaker, it is undoubtedly the same feeling. You are fine. Mifune looked at Kakashi, who was supporting his body with a wooden sword, and said his highest praise. Thank you Mifune-sama. Kakashi tried his best to respond. This month, Mifune is undoubtedly like his teacher, carefully teaching him. Mifune understands that the 2 days are first class and he has also learned Iaido. Haruki hurried up to restore Kakashi's body with healing techniques. Kakashi, I want to ask you, a month ago, did your teacher use the same sword pose at sea? Huh? How would you know? Kakashi couldn't help being a little surprised when he heard this. When Haruki showed the first class for 2 days, it was impossible for Mifune to be nearby. The sword energy is condensed and not dispersed. I was fortunate to witness the Yue. With a look of yearning on Mifune's face, he sighed and said, your teacher should have reached the highest level of kendo, so he can do so. Kakashi glanced at Haruki subconsciously, but Mifune didn't notice. He recovered and continued to ask, I don't know who your teacher is. I don't know what your teacher is. I don't know at all. It's too strange. Could it be your father, Hitaki Tsukumo, who is called Konoha's White Fang? No, Kakashi shook his head quickly, and when he was hesitant to say Haruki's name, he heard Haruki speak. His teacher is indifferent to fame and fortune, and it's normal for the leader of the 3 ships to not know. If there is only one person in 3 boats, it's okay to tell him. But there are too many people in the dojo. It takes less than a few days, everyone knows it, and it's a troublesome thing. Haruki chose to hide it. What a pity. Mifune was not surprised, he did agree with Haruki's statement. After all, with this kind of swordsmanship, with a little publicity, it can be famous all over the world. Afterwards, Mifune invited Haruki and others to dinner at the Iron Kingdom Palace. Although he and Kakashi do not have the name of mentoring an apprentice, they have the truth of mentoring an apprenticeship. Knowing that they will leave soon, I feel unwilling to Kakashi. But if Kakashi can help him become famous in the future, it would not be in vain to teach this month. No, according to Kakashi's talent, he will definitely shine in the ninja world. Haruki again called Tsunade and Kakuzu to have a luxurious meal at Daimyofu. As Mifune guessed, Kakashi's swordsmanship has now been significantly improved. There is no need to stay here. What Haruki didn't expect was that he received a letter from Uchiha Mikoto the next day. 3 things are said in it. The first thing is that there is a traitor in Uchiha. Originally from the film Preservationist, he was born close to Hokage. It was discovered last week that he was in contact with Shimura Danzo. Mikoto took him down without hesitation, and after torturing him with Mangekyo Sharingan, he got an amazing news. Danzo wants him to assassinate Haruki. The reason is that the root elite ran into Kakuzu and none of them survived. Angrily, he cast his idea on the Uchiha clan. Because Uchiha is rumored to be invincible one-on-one, and he has Sharingan, he can't even beat Kakuzu. Unfortunately, Uchiha was cleaned by Mikoto. When Haruki saw this news, he finally understood why Danzo hadn't sent anyone over for a whole month, and his feelings were that he died before he was a student. The second thing is a continuation of the first thing. The decisiveness demonstrated by Mikoto made Shimura Danzo suspicious. Coupled with this period of time, Uchiha's change in attitude has made Sarutobi Hiruzen questionable. So Anbu and Genbu began to have a deeper vigilance and surveillance of Uchiha. The third thing is Mikoto's own feelings, only once or twice. She sensed that someone was spying on her in the dark. But he could not be found. The level of hiding made Mikoto suspicious, so she was not sure. But Haruki can determine who it is. Uchiha Madara or Black-White Zetsu. Judging from the original work, they have been concerned about the Uchiha clan for a long time. Although Uchiha Obito was finally selected, they must have noticed the changes in Mikoto now. After thinking about it for a while, Haruki wrote back to Mikoto. The first thing, so that she doesn't have to stop it in the future, he wants to see what Shimura Danzo can make. The latter 2 things make her feel safe, and it is impossible for Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo to do it without absolute evidence. In the same way, Uchiha Madara and White Zetsu are the same. They will not act until Mikoto's eyes are Mangekyo Sharingan. A new day. Haruki prepares to leave the metropolis of Iron Country. But as soon as he opened the door, he saw Kakashi beating Obito. After Mifune and his 1 month of teaching, Kakashi's current level far exceeds Obito. Although Obito also has Kakuzu as a teacher, Kakuzu's ninjutsu can't teach him, and it's impossible to teach him. Haruki could see that Obito's strength has been greatly improved, at least called the genius of the Jonin school. You lose. Naturally, because you have something to learn. Haruki thought about it for a moment. In fact, Obito's current chakra is far superior to his peers, and may already have eye-opening physical qualities. Haruki patted him on the shoulder and smiled. This is the only way for Obito to become stronger. Go and ask Lin and the others to come over for dinner. Damn it. Obito unexpectedly got Haruki's assurance and immediately smiled. Kakashi looked at Haruki with a shocked expression on his face and doubted what he said. Obito looked unwilling. Kakashi retracted both knives and said lukewarmly. Well, tomorrow, I will help you improve your strength. Really, thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Teacher. Obito noticed the Haruki next to him and suddenly felt aggrieved and said, why can't I learn swordsmanship? What he wants most is to surpass Kakashi, but the recent situation has not been reduced, but the gap has increased. After Haruki sent Obito away, he whispered a few words to Kakashi. Ming Amaterasu, I just do what I said. Chapter 141. Uchiha Obito sullenly had breakfast. He glanced at Kakashi, who was always calm, and couldn't help sighing. A person's appearance and clothing are easy to change, but the temperament is difficult. After staying with Haruki for a long time, he basically understands what kind of guy the girls like. Handsome, cold, and excellent. Kakashi alone accounted for 3. No wonder I couldn't beat him before. No, not now. Obito thinks that his strength has been greatly improved, but unfortunately Kakashi is the same. 2x2 offset, he is still inferior. I can only hope that teacher Yu Chingshu said tomorrow. Kakashi got the first class for 2 days and opened the distance all at once. But Mr. Haruki shouldn't favor one another. Obito thought about overtaking Kakashi tomorrow, punching Kakashi, and entering a waiting state. As always, follow Kakuzu training, mainly physical skills and fire style. Speaking of which, Obito was shocked when he saw Kakuzu's fire style for the first time, because neither his power nor his proficiency was inferior to that of the Uchiha clan. You know, when ninja mentions fire style, the first thing that comes to mind is Uchiha. However, Kakuzu is different from Haruki. In addition to the appearance, Kakuzu always keeps the seal on Kakuzu, and Haruki likes to pat with both hands. Obito compared the 2 teachers and felt that he liked Haruki better. The main reason is that Kakuzu's personality is too cold, and he wears a mask. His eyes are full of killing all day, like a frosty goblin. At night, after eating, Obito suffered from insomnia for the first time. He is looking forward to tomorrow too much. I don't know how long it took before he finally fell asleep. In the morning, he was awakened by a knock on the door. "Is it Teacher Haruki?" Obito immediately got dressed, trotted to open the door, and saw Kakashi. "It's you?" "It's me," Kakashi said lukewarm. "Come on for morning exercises." "Morning exercise? No, I'm going to see Teacher Chingshu." Obito shook his head and refused. He was not a fool, but he was still doing morning exercises. "Ms. Haruki went out for something, and will come back later." Kakashi chuckled and said, "You dare not try with me now?" Obito was furious. Kakashi's nonchalant and mocking attitude completely caught his thoughts. "Who said I dare not? Come." Obito was so anxious that his face flushed. He is Uchiha himself. After studying with Haruki, he was awarded the title of genius, and his personality gradually became a little proud. And the person who frustrated him is Kakashi, who valued him the most. He spread his anger, his hands quickly became imprinted, and he opened his mouth and vomited. The purple-red fire dragon was good at facing the wind and turned into a huge fireball. Kakashi's two swords were unsheathed and suddenly crossed in front of him to form two arcs of white sword energy. The sword was extremely sharp, and it cut the great fireball directly. Obito rolled on the spot in embarrassment, barely avoiding it. "That's it?" Kakashi pointed a long knife at his head. "You have learned so long that you can't even take one of my tricks?" Kakashi. Obito was suddenly frustrated. He hadn't noticed that Kakashi today was too arrogant, completely unlike the past. "Is it useful to roar so loudly?" Kakashi tilted his head and sneered. "It's better to go home and dance for women like you." Women's clothing, dancing. When Obito heard these two words, his face was grim and his eyes were red. "Asshole." There was a boiling chakra all over him. Kakashi retreated quickly. The unimaginable hot breath gushes out. The entire courtyard was shrouded in fireballs. His expression was solemn, which was a full circle larger than the previous great fireball technique. Kakashi's figure moved. The two knives in his hands were faintly shining thunder, and the left knife slashed the fireball, but it did not work as well as before. There was only a gap that could allow a person to pass sideways. But for him, it was enough. Kakashi came instantly. The speed is incredible. The long knife in his right hand swept down, and an amazing arc enveloped Obito. In the past, Obito couldn't react at all, but Kakashi found that the person under his knife turned out to be a stand-in. He was slightly startled. How could it be? Kakashi. Obito's voice came from behind him. He turned around abruptly and saw blood-red eyes and sparks flying all over the sky. They attached to the shuriken and formed a huge impatience flower. Fire-style impatience claw red, B-level ninjutsu. Kakashi didn't have time to think about when Obito learned it, and why there is so much chakra. A sword light shot up in front of him. This is a flash in Juhei Road. It was Kakashi who learned it from Mifune. The collision of the sword and the shuriken. The sounds came and went one after another, and there was more fire. Kakashi's complexion changed slightly, and he did not hesitate to close the knife and jump before he escaped the aftermath of the collision. But the attack came again. Obito's expression was indifferent and quickly imprinted, and a slender line of fire was spit out from his mouth. After a while, it swelled into a giant python, chasing Kakashi's figure. Too fast. Kakashi gritted his teeth and threw the long knife across, blocking it on top of his head. There was a crash. Chakra was wrapped in a long knife, and there was a faint wave of water. And his short sword cuts rapidly in a narrow space. For the first time, he felt Haruki let him practice cutting fruit. The fire dragon hit the long knife and suddenly a burst of smoke rose. As soon as the forward speed stopped, short sword was like a cat and an ox, and the fire dragon broke into flames in an instant. Obito felt even more irritable when he saw this. The double-go jade in both eyes seemed to spin rapidly. But Kakashi took this opportunity to reach him. He can see that the current Obito chakra is taller than him, so it is naturally impossible to compete with ninjutsu. Moreover, he has strong swordsmanship and must be close. It's useless, I can see your movements clearly. On the side of Obito's body, avoiding his sword pose, holding kunai in his hand, he started a physique contest with Kakashi. This is the Sharingan I am proud of, Uchiha, you have nowhere to hide in front of me. Obito is obviously a little floating, but slapped him and found that the cruel words were a bit too early. He actually fought Kakashi 50-50. Obito became more and more angry, but Kakashi seized the opportunity instead. The astonishing arc of sword light in front of him filled his sight like moonlight. You are upset, Obito. Kakashi's long knife was pressed against his neck. This style just now is Mifune's most powerful Iaizan. You had a chance of winning. I know, you don't need to say it. Obito was depressed, he calmed down, and finally remembered the anomaly of Kakashi. What's the matter with you today? Just come to piss me off. This is what Haruki-sensei meant. Kakashi retracted the two swords and pointed to Haruki, who suddenly appeared to the side. It has nothing to do with me. Hey, Kakashi, what do you mean? When Haruki heard these words, he couldn't help but was taken aback. Was he dumped? Are you two okay? Behind him, Yi Yuan-lin ran over quickly, with a worried expression on her face. Haruki looked at Obito again. His expression was obviously complicated. He wanted to curse but didn't dare. Unfortunately, the second plan was useless. He had planned to change Kakashi to Rin Nohara if he didn't succeed. But the double go jade is not bad, at least it has to be Chunon's level. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 142 The legendary treasure. The continuous heavy snow disappeared completely after leaving the country of iron. Blue sea, blue sky. Haruki and his party were heading east on the sailboat. Their purpose is the country of water. A unique country with numerous islands, surrounded by mist and sea. It can be said to be isolated from the world, except for 1 or 2 ninja battles in the original. Kirigakure's ninjas have almost no plot. Even if there is a plot, it is controlled by Uchiha Obito and all kinds of unlucky ninja 7. Kakuzu. Haruki glanced at Kakuzu, who was fishing, and asked, "Have you been to water country before?" King. Kakuzu stared at the sea without squinting. Black markets exist in various countries, and the people offering rewards are different. I have been to the water country several times in order to earn rewards. Are you familiar with the person in charge of the black market in water country? Naturally familiar. Kakuzu nodded and said, "If you have anyone who wants to offer a reward, you can tell me directly, and you can save the money from being exploited by the black market. There is no middleman to make the difference." Haruki blurted out an advertisement from a previous life. You were right. Kakuzu was startled slightly. He felt that the term, middleman, was very appropriate. It's not that I am boasting. It is difficult for the entire ninja world to find a better bounty hunter than me. When it comes to money, he can talk even with a nasty guy like Haruki. Make money, not shabby. Haruki couldn't help but smile and said, "Maybe I will disappoint you. I don't want to offer a reward, but want to negotiate a deal with the person in charge of the black market." Kakuzu frowned and asked, "In addition to offering rewards in the black market, what else can be bought and sold?" "A big deal of hundreds of millions." Haruki asked with a mysterious face, "Want to know?" "Think." Kakuzu obeyed his inner desires and told the truth. "A treasure." "What treasure?" Kakuzu's eyes lit up. "I have to ask you," Haruki asked. "You have lived for so long. You must have known the legend of the water country." Kakuzu's hands holding the fishing rod trembled slightly. With his cleverness, he immediately knew what Haruki was talking about. Is the relationship teasing me before? He took a deep breath and said, "Legend is just a legend. If it is true, it has been found long ago, then which turn is you? If you try your luck, it's just idle and bored," Haruki said casually. Kakuzu was silent for a moment and talked about a legend. About a few decades ago, daimyo of water country had 2 sons fighting for the right to inheritance. The strength and talents of the 2 were equal, so they played for nearly 10 years. In the end, the younger His Royal Highness Fujiwara failed. But he was not reconciled, and left the water country with his subordinates and the treasures he had scouted, and was ready to create a new country. However, his fleet mysteriously disappeared, and his whereabouts are no longer known. Although this story is cliched, it is not bad. After Haruki finished listening, he thought slightly and asked, "Wait for the country of water, Kakuzu, take me to the person in charge of the black market." Kakuzu nodded, not wanting to talk to him again. He thought that Haruki had any treasure, but it made him happy for nothing. It's better to go fishing for half an hour. 5 days later, Haruki and others crossed the sea and came to the misty water country. The reason for this short time is because Kakuzu can't stand Tenten's fish, so he robbed the work of Kakashi's 3 people and went wild all the way. As before, Haruki first booked a lodging house. Immediately following Kakuzu, he met the person in charge of the black market in a very ordinary izakaya. An old man in his 60s. The boss in a kimono obviously knew Kakuzu and greeted him when he saw him. "Kakuzu, long time no see, you are still so young." Kakuzu nodded faintly and pointed at Haruki again. "His name is Haruki, and he said he has something to look for you." After speaking, he stopped speaking and sat next to him. "Haruki?" The old man's wrinkled face showed a trace of contemplation. "This name is very familiar, as if I have heard it somewhere." "Kinoha Haruki." Haruki sat opposite him and reminded. Oh, it turned out to be Haruki, one of Konoha Schwangbi. The old man squinted his eyes slightly and smiled. "You are so bold. If you are known by Kirigakure, it will be difficult for you to get out of the water country." "Isn't there, Kakuzu?" Haruki's answer surprised the old man a little. He glanced at Kakuzu with a gloomy look, not knowing how he got together with Haruki. Logically, Haruki should be Kakuzu's hunting target. He remembered that some time ago, the amount of reward offered by Haruki really shocked the black market. "It's been a long time since I saw a ninja with such a high amount." But Kakuzu, who loves money like his life, can hold back without doing it. This is the same as going to a water tea house. The beauties are full of dangling beauties. They didn't see any stitches, but really drank the tea. Water tea, water tea. Water is not real water, and tea is not real tea either. "Your Excellency, what do you want to do with me? Are you offering a reward for the enemy?" The old man took back his thoughts and started talking about business. "No, I am here to improve the performance of the black market." The old man thought he was old and had hallucinations. After living for so long, it was the first time he heard that someone went to the black market and said, "I will help you increase your performance." When Haruki saw this, it was not surprising. Had it not been for the reputation of Kakuzu and Konoha, he would have been bombed out long ago. But what he said is true. The black market, that is, the gold exchange, in his view, is very similar to the various platforms in the previous life. Especially a certain treasure. The black market collects fees based on the needs of customers and publishes rewards. And the ninja or the samurai, relying on their own ability to complete the reward. Although both sellers and buyers on this platform are bloody, they have similarities. After Haruki talked about a method similar to big data price comparison, Kakuzu's eyes gradually became dangerous when he saw him. According to his vision, the black market will treat bounty hunters and regular customers specially. Bounty hunter, create a personal profile, write down the approximate strength, the number of rewards completed, the time required, and so on. Regular customers are listed as VIP members and can enjoy various discounts. For example, offering discounts and preferential selection of bounty hunters. Once and again, Kakuzu can imagine the price reduction competition among bounty hunters in order to receive large orders. Wonderful. The old man couldn't help but sigh. The many strategies Haruki said gave him a refreshing feeling. How much wealth has been missed in the past decades of operating the black market by myself. Besides, there is another way to make people who have been offered a reward no longer feel scared or hated, but take pride in it. In the surprised eyes of the old man, Haruki said that based on the amount of the reward, the people who were offered the reward were divided into 4 emperors, 7 warlords of the sea, supernova, etc., and then told him the story of One Piece in the supplementary version. Although the old man did not believe it, it did not prevent him from agreeing to Haruki's plan. Using the legendary Fujiwara treasure of the water country as a gimmick, the in-depth publicity of One Piece has caused more riots. The black market is invincible no matter what. The more riots, the better the business. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 143 4 Emperors. After leaving the black market, Kakuzu said nothing. He once again realized the viciousness of Haruki. Fortunately, I have already become famous. Otherwise, this reform of the black market will definitely reduce my income. Where are you going? After a while, Kakuzu noticed the abnormality and couldn't help but ask. Haruki, this is not the way to the house. Looking at the direction, it seems to be towards the edge of the country of water. Could it be? Because he heard his business secrets, he would kill people? Go to Fujiwara Island. Kakuzu breathed a sigh of relief immediately when he heard the words, but then shook his head. Fujiwara Island, the unnamed island in the legend that His Highness Fujiwara passed by last. After that, he was submerged in the vast sea, and there was no trace again. In other words, Fujiwara Island cannot have treasures. Kakuzu took a rare opportunity and said with a soft snort. You don't have to waste your time. Although Fujiwara Island is said to be an uninhabited desert island, it has been visited many times since the legend of Fujiwara treasures. You thought it was a quiet trail, but in fact, it has long been busy. Haruki glanced at him, a little surprised. I didn't expect you to be able to tell the truth. Kakuzu was uncomfortable with his eyes, frowned and said, don't you understand this truth? I understand naturally. Haruki smiled and did not refute him, but our goal is to create another treasure. Kakuzu was stunned, thinking of the plan he had talked about with the black market boss, and suddenly understood the cause and effect. So you want to fake the story of Fujiwara treasure in One Piece to be true? Yes. But are you sure someone really believes the One Piece you compiled? Normally, they wouldn't believe it. But what if someone finds chakra fruit in the Fujiwara treasure? Impossible. Without thinking about it, Kakuzu blurted out. Having lived for so many years, I have never heard of chakra fruit. If you eat it and you can get the blood succession boundary, and the blood and blood has been set off in the ninja realm as early as possible, why wait for Haruki to do something? Don't say that everything is impossible lightly. Haruki jumped into the sea. Kakuzu immediately followed his pace. 2 people walked on the water. Do you know what the ninjas of Kirigakure want most? Haruki slowed down, paralleling Kakuzu. What money? Kakuzu hesitated for a moment and said, ninjas seem to be a tall profession, but the essence is to earn remuneration for tasks. That's not bad for you to say that, but Kirigakure has too many blood heir families, so what they want most is a cure for bloodline disease. In the original work, there are not many ninjas who died because of the bloodline disease, and there are even ninjas who have died out as a result. For example, Kimimaro's Wei Yoruichi clan. Kakuzu instinctively wanted to say that this is a fantasy. Because no one has ever been able to cure bloodline disease. But when he thought of Haruki's previous words, he didn't say any more and became silent. If we claim that eating the first chakra fruit can get the blood limit, and the second one can eliminate the bloodline disease, what would you say? Kakuzu thought about such a scene. He always felt that they would overturn. Once the car overturned, Haruki relied on Flying Thunder God technique to pat his butt and leave, but what about himself? Gone. He suddenly wanted to turn around and ran away. Of course, what we are going to do now is to prove the existence of Fujiwara treasure and the effect of chakra fruit. Chingshu stopped, a body flicker technique, and went ashore. He looked around for a week. This is a not so large island, basically the size of a football field. As Kakuzu said, he saw several potholes, obviously artificial. Haruki remembered the lottery in the previous life. Obviously the chance of winning is very low, but there are still people intent on buying. For that illusory chance, and this treasure hunt is similar. What if you were lucky? Everyone has a fluke mentality. Otherwise, why did the most profitable games in the previous life almost have card draws? How are we going to transform? Kakuzu walked up to Haruki, he already understood his destiny. Hard work. Hide is to hide, see if you can find a way to enjoy it. Maze. Haruki did not hesitate. When it comes to treasures, one has to talk about mazes. In the various games of the previous life, the maze is quite a classic link. He intends to transform the Fujiwara treasure into a complicated maze, and the strange road contains dangers and opportunities. The warriors who were attracted, after fighting, came to the final treasure. That is, the so-called chakra fruit. Well, of course it's useless to eat it. Haruki's plan is to choose a lucky guy first, and then cultivate goodwill, and directly gift an ability. According to the system, the minimum requirement that must be met is 60 favorability. In fact, this is not particularly difficult, probably equivalent to a slightly familiar friend level. Just help a few times in the maze, you should be able to reach it. Maze? Kakuzu groaned. Is this not in line with the legend? And the Fujiwara treasure should be deep in the sea? Legends are legends and facts are facts. When legends are different from facts, people will find sufficient reasons for facts to prove that they are facts. Haruki began to seal, and a shadow clone densely packed with nearly 1,000 people appeared in front of Kakuzu. Not to mention the current interests, who will care if the legend is true or false? Well, less gossip, we will officially start. Kakuzu opened his mouth. This damn amount of chakra. It's not that he doesn't know what is called shadow clone. Too outrageous. Normal ninjas use multiple shadow clone techniques, and dozens of them are considered good. More than 100, all belong to the best among Jonin. What's wrong? Haruki saw that Kakuzu was in a daze, and said, we don't have much time, we have to hurry up. I see. Kakuzu sighed and honestly separated out 500 shadow clones. This is already the limit, no matter how much his body can't bear. When Haruki and Kakuzu were the contractors, Mizuno Kuni did not know where the story of One Piece came from. At first no one cared about what chakra fruit was nonsense, but then it spread more and more widely, and more importantly, the news released on the black market. The 7 ninjas are called 7 warlords of the sea, and the senior leaders of Kirigakure are called marshals and San Admiral. The most coincidental thing is that Kirigakure is called the marshal, an elder with the same status as 3rd Mizukage. More and more rumors have made some people believing. 2 weeks later, Kirigakure's S-class rebel Chiba Katsuki robbed an island and left the name 4 emperors. According to people on the island, Chiba Katsuki got a map of the treasures of His Royal Highness Fujiwara. Suddenly, the country of water was surging, and countless ninjas embarked on a treasure hunt. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 144 Kirigakure Mizukage Office. 3rd Mizukage squinted, looking at the treasure map on the desk. Very familiar location. Fujiwara Island. But unlike the map he saw, a huge palace was painted under the island. Although the specific situation is not explained, anyone who sees this picture can understand its meaning. This underground palace is where the treasure is. 3rd Mizukage knocked on the desktop, feeling a little irritable. He doesn't believe in the story of One Piece. However, the recent turmoil is getting bigger and bigger. As Mizukage, he knows that once people believe the rumors, there may be no peace in the country of water. He must stop. Where is Chiba Katsuki? 3rd Mizukage raised his head and asked. In front of him stood a ninja who looked like a child. Citrus Yagura. With green hair and purple pupils, there is a suture-shaped scar under his left eye. Born with a baby face, the actual age is unknown, but he is over 30 years old, and with strong strength, he is the ultimate master of the younger generation. After a fight with Anbu, he died in the explosion of the detonator. Citrus Yagura did not rush, answering like a gentleman. Died? 3rd Mizukage frowned, not to blame Yagura. Chiba Katsuki is an S-rank rebel, and his strength is not bad. It is difficult to capture the original alive. What troubles him is that he can't know why this guy calls himself 4 emperors. Do you know the origin of the treasure map? 3rd Mizukage asked again. No, we were on the island, and we asked almost everyone, but to no avail. Citrus Tangerine Yagura mentioned this, and his face changed a little. I suspect there must be something strange in this. 3rd Mizukage pressed his head with a headache. Other ninjas foolishly believed in this show. But they Kirigakure didn't believe it. Suddenly, such a huge rumor was formed, and there must be an ulterior motive behind it. The only way now is to go to Fujiwara Island. 3rd Mizukage sighed and said, I originally didn't want Kirigakure to participate. After all, our participation has made this rumor more true. But for this plan, we have to go out and announce the truth about the treasure in front of everyone. He looked at Yagura and said, you will lead the team. Kirigakure moves very fast. When Haruki heard the news of Chiba Katsutsu's death, he couldn't help but smiled, what a poor fellow. Kakuzu glanced at him. Isn't it you who is behind all this? Although the executor is himself. Relying on Kakuzu's contacts, Haruki successfully convinced Shiba Katsuki that he was the legendary Four Emperors, a powerful man who could create great deeds and conquer the sea. As a result, he was caught by Kirigakure 3 days later. Fortunately, Kakuzu helped him with the detonation talisman, otherwise, the plan might be revealed. The fame and fortune in this world are really hard to give up. Haruki looked at other news from Kakuzu. Is it Yagura? His impression of this guy is miserable, very miserable. Obviously became Mizukage, sitting in one of the most powerful positions, but this happiness did not last long. Then he was controlled by Obito's Sharingan and became a puppet, making Kirigakure a mess. Numerous geniuses and masters left one after another, causing Kirigakure's overall strength to drop off a cliff. If it weren't for his subordinate, Shing, who possessed the European emperor in the Third Ninja World War, obtained a Byakugan from the Hyuga clan, and dispelled his illusion, then his tragic fate might not end until death. Haruki thought slightly. According to the plan, he must find the ultimate winner of the treasure. The identity of Citrus Yagura is very suitable. If he can prove the power of chakra fruit, it will definitely cause a great sensation. But his experience and strength are too strong to be close and easy to be seen through. And he can deny it. After all, he was originally Kirigakure's famous ninja. He said that it was his hidden strength, not the result of eating the chakra fruit. It is difficult for you to defend it. Only the guys with poor strength are more convincing. Continue to help me investigate. Haruki vetoed Yagura's candidate and handed over the task to Kakuzu. Speaking of which, he increasingly felt that keeping Kakuzu was a very wise choice. This guy can eat everywhere. Kakuzu nodded. It was not because he was impressed by Haruki, but because he paid. He will not have trouble with money. The time is now ripe for the black market to release more treasure maps. After a period of hard work, Haruki and Kakuzu finally created the maze. In order to make the maze more chronological, he specially invited the master to disguise it. Of course, under the premise of confidentiality. The capacity of the labyrinth is limited. Design a mechanism to let the capable people in. Haruki thought for a while, then added. The more people there are, the harder it is to deal with. He only needs to be there. Kakuzu glanced at him and reminded him. The major forces of the water country have never been peaceful. If you gather them together, you may have a bigger storm than you think. No need to worry. Haruki knew what he was thinking, but he was afraid that he would roll over. But with his current strength, the odds of overturning are about the same as the odds of winning the lottery. Unless it is Uchiha Madara and Black-White Zetsu. But the two of them had their own goals and were restricted. Time flies. The land of water has set off all sorts of bloody storms in just 1 month. Business on the black market is also getting hotter. Taking this opportunity, they completely launched the reward system of One Piece. The rebels and pirates who were running around in the vast seas have gained heat one after another. Because they discovered that once they had the so-called Four Emperors and supernovas, they encountered many islands that paid money directly. The only thing that is upset is the country of water and Kirigakure. The pressure doubles. But fortunately, the so-called Fujiwara treasure is about to be developed, and all rumors will be self-defeating. Before the curtain opened, Haruki called Tsunade and others. This is a rare opportunity. Kakashi, Obito, and Lin have made rapid progress during this time, and the combination of the three is not inferior to Jonin. As long as you don't go deep into the maze, you won't encounter dangerous characters. Tsunade, you take them with you. The three honed it. What about you? Tsunade had no objection. Kakuzu maintains the mechanism of the maze. I will pick a lucky one. Haruki squeezed her face. He and Tsunade explained the reasons for doing this earlier. Reduce the power of the water country. In the original work, although there is no too detailed description of the Third Ninja War, Kirigakure did a lot of things in terms of the content that appeared. One is that the 7 ninja swords attacked Konoha and might die. The second is to let Rin Nohara do 3 tails Jinchuriki and let her return to Konoha to blow herself up. In the end, to avoid this situation, she willingly died in Kakashi's hands. Beyond that, there must be more. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 145 The Chosen Terumi Mei, Third More, The Blue Sky and Cloudless Weather. Fujiwara Island, located on the edge of the water country, ushered in the busiest day ever. Looking down from a high altitude, steamships, sailing boats, rafts and other various ships crowded the sea area with a radius of 1,000 meters. On the island, people are next to each other, just like Haruki's visit to tourist attractions during the Golden Week in his previous life. Kakuzu has already gone inside the maze, and Haruki was mixed into the crowd without knowing it. He is not in a hurry, looking left and right, looking for his lucky one. Before long, there was a clamor on the island. Haruki looked up and saw that it was Kirigakure's Citrus Yagura. As a famous ninja in the land of water, his arrival caused riots in the surrounding crowd. Many of the guys who rushed over because of watching the excitement have unknowingly changed their psychology at this time. In the country of water, Kirigakure is undoubtedly an authority. Citrus Yagura did not speak. He knew that now he felt that there was no silver in this place. You said it was false, but you came by yourself. Isn't it a contradiction? The corner of Haruki's mouth suddenly curved. Behind the citrus Yugura are 6 Anbu ninjas wearing masks. But for one of them, he noticed the problem. In his eyes, the one at the end was a 7 or 8-year-old girl. It turned out to be transformation technique, and this long reddish-brown curly hair almost exposed her identity clearly. Tsurumi Mei. The future 5th Mizukage, a mature and beautiful woman, is no less than Tsunade in the hearts of many Hokage fans. But at this time she is just a little girl. Haruki decided in an instant that his goal was Tsurumi Mei. Young as the Mizukage of the future, he glanced around, his hands quickly formed a seal, almost less than half a second, and he was calm again. Haruki's feet began to shake. Earthquake. What's going on? Everyone, be careful. There was a riot in the crowd. But the vibration did not stop, but became more and more intense. Some weak ninjas quickly retreated to the surface. But before they could breathe a sigh of relief, they saw a huge wave suddenly rising from the sea, as if something was coming out. Someone propped up Chakra's barrier. The waves hit the island, causing cracks in the ground. The rustling sound is endless. Bubbles continue to emerge from the vast and boundless sea. A few minutes later, the raised area suddenly cracked and an unfathomable hole appeared. The air was quiet for 3 or 4 seconds. Immediately there was a sound of breaking through the air. Countless ninjas rushed to the entrance of the cave. The first middle-aged man who arrived was ecstatic. He moved fast and was close, so he was the first one. But his smile was still on his face, and mist suddenly filled the passage, and a long sword formed by seawater pierced his heart at an extremely fast speed. The spray of blood stained a pool of red. Damn it. There is a trap. Water-style water turbulence. Ninjutsu and screams were intertwined in the fog, and the blood red gradually spread. Citrus Yugura frowned and shouted loudly, "All the people below Chunin quit, don't waste your life." After that, whether they listened to them or not, they took the 6 Anbu directly to the bottom of the hole. It's wet. Citrus Yugura's eyes dazzled, perception spread, but there is no danger. He waved his hand and moved on. The passage is dark, but very large, enough to accommodate a dozen people passing side by side. But it didn't take long before it came to an end. This is... Citrus Yugura saw the bronze gate in the middle. The door is carved with reliefs. He glanced at it, and it was the story of One Piece that was circulating. The background is a huge tree. There are no branches and leaves, only trunks. The roots of the tree firmly grasped the ground and formed a huge pit. Going up along the trunk is a purple fruit, revealing a faint divine light. Clouds surround it. The whole picture looks extremely dreamy and desolate. Citrus Yugura lost consciousness for a moment, not knowing why he always felt that this tree seemed to be real. In just 1 minute, more than a dozen people walked in. Like Yugura, they saw the bronze gate and the painting for the first time. The atmosphere gradually calmed down. Could it be true? Some people couldn't help but blurt out the questions in their hearts. Haruki was among them, and smiled upon hearing these words. Not in vain his thoughts, but at the beginning, he looked at Yugura, a citrus fruit. Some interesting things were said by him on the bronze gate. He knows that Yugura, they don't believe it very much, but what if they encounter unimaginable resistance? There is a saying that it is too simple and too false, and if you want to cherish it, you have to make him feel that it is hard to come by. After a brief exclamation, everyone turned their eyes to the bronze gate. Master Citrus, do you have eyebrows? No, Kochi Yugura glanced at the speaker. It was a Jonin from Kirigakure, but he came from another ninja and didn't deal with Mizukage very much. Hey, in that case, let me try. The young man walked quickly to the door, and Chakra whistled out following the knots of his hands. 2 whips made of water wrapped around the door knocker, straightened out abruptly, and pulled out. The strong force caused the gate to vibrate. Upon seeing this, the youth increased Chakra's output. The door opened slowly, then a behemoth appeared in front of everyone. A crystal-like body with 10 tails, after being awakened, suddenly opened his mouth. A black sphere is formed in the mouth, flying out in 1 second. Everyone just felt that their scalp was numb, and there was a chill. An unprecedented sense of crisis and oppression fills the entire underground space. Kochi Yugura's pupils shrunk, and she looked at the black sphere in front of her incredibly. This feeling is clearly tailed beast bomb. How can it be? But he didn't have time to think about it, and he didn't hesitate to seal, and a huge chakra spouted from his mouth. The sound of water waves sounded. His surroundings were immediately surrounded by endless seawater. With his movements, it fell from the sky like a pouring rain, forming a huge waterfall. When Yugura performed ninjutsu, Jonin in the group behind him also reacted. Various water styles rushed towards the black sphere. The momentum is huge, almost invincible. In the next second, there was a loud noise, and the unbridled flood washed everyone. Careful. Citrus Yugura only had time to say 2 words to his men, and was buried in the flood. Unimaginable great power drove him into flight. There was hardly any blood on his baby face. The Citrus Yugura has only seen such power in front of the tail beast. And those ninjas who didn't come in only heard a deafening roar. The sea and islands in front of them seemed to have been blown by a strong hurricane. The boiling water and the ground breaking from it. They looked at each other in horror, completely unable to imagine what happened inside. Immediately a giant beast emerged from the sea, making waves in the water, turning the river into the sea. A disaster is coming. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 146 Lava Style. Fourth more. The behemoth lasted less than 10 seconds, and seemed to disappear because of its inability to succeed, but the damage it caused was earth-shattering. Those who were lucky enough to survive faced the scene of a fleet crash after a storm. They finally believed the rumors in their hearts. Only the legendary One Piece can cause such great power. The disappearance of His Royal Highness Fujiwara is also a matter of course. Haruki walked in the maze at random. After he made sure that Tsunade and others were safe, he followed Terumi Mei to the place. It was prepared that Terumi Mei was rushed here. Her current strength is far inferior to her Mizukage period, only Chunin level. Although she didn't know how her transformation technique had concealed Yugura, but under the indiscriminate attack of the giant beast, she was directly hit by the unmatched water waves and fainted. And her transformation technique was relieved as a result. After Haruki controlled the monster that looked like 10 tails and disappeared, almost all the remaining people stepped into the maze. He buried some treasures everywhere in the maze, waiting for their discovery. It's not that he was kind. In fact, the number is not large, but it is enough to increase the authenticity. According to his plot, after His Royal Highness Fujiwara left the water country, he encountered the Roger pirates. After eluding, Roger was afraid that the name of the water country would be chased by him, so he searched for a previous labyrinth and sank the fleet. The treasures that the ninjas found were the ones that were found in the first place. As for the chakra fruit, it was set as the treasure of the labyrinth, but due to the deep labyrinth and the complicated terrain, Roger and the others did not find it, which made them cheaper for the latecomers. Where am I? Terumi Mei, who is still a little girl, finally wakes up. She immediately noticed the sunny tree and the fire. You saved me. Terumi Mei looked at Haruki's back and noticed the wet clothes on her body, and remembered what had happened before. She and Yugura were forced to separate when they encountered a behemoth. Are you okay? Haruki turned around, glanced at her, and said, come here and dry your clothes. Terumi Mei's small eyes suddenly widened. A beautiful man with a smile at the corner of his eyes, gentle eyes, and exquisite facial features, shining a dim flame, was looking at her. As if all the words lost their color, her heartbeat pounded. So handsome. Terumi Mei changed his usual careless grin, got up calmly and gracefully, and leaned in front of the fire. His face was reddened. Haruki glanced at her. The ninja clothes were thick and could not see much. Besides, there was nothing good about Yama Pingchuan. It's just that his beautiful male strategy seems to work. I still remember Terumi Mei's personality in the original work is relatively strong, and he is an appearance association and likes small fresh meat. Although I am young now, the so-called 3-year-old looks young, and 7-year-old looks old. Thank you for saving me. Terumi Mei stretched out her hand and burned it on the fire, and asked, my name is Terumi Mei, what's your name? Sunny. Haruki compiled a name casually, and then glanced at the favorability in the system, which actually exceeded 60. Sure enough, he looks handsome and has special treatment. But he didn't know what kind of ability to give Terumi Mei. In the original work, she owns Lava Style and Boil Style, both of which are very strong blood inheritance limits. Lava Style and Lava Style are sometimes confused, but the two are completely different. One is a viscous liquid with strong corrosiveness, and the other is magma or volcanic bomb combined with the nature transformation of fire and earth. Lava Style is unique to Terumi Mei, and there is no mention of how she learned it in the original work. But now she should not know Lava Style. Otherwise, in the previously dangerous situation, it will be easier to escape the danger by using the blood relay boundary. Thinking of this, Haruki decided to exchange the Lava Style with the system designation, and then give it to Terumi Mei. Hey! Seeing Haruki in a daze, Terumi Mei couldn't help shaking her hand in front of him. Sorry, I am worried about the safety of my companion. Haruki smiled reluctantly. They will be fine. Seeing his expression, Terumi Mei hurriedly said comfortingly. It's so handsome even melancholy. Thanks. Haruki glanced at her gratefully, and then asked, where are you? You are so young, you must be separated from your companions, right? Terumi Mei thought of Yugura's citrus fruit at this time, and didn't know where they were now. Although their strength is good, the previous giant beasts gave her a lot of psychological pressure. For a while, even Haruki's handsomeness couldn't calm her uneasy heart. Haruki took out a map. If nothing happens, your companion should come to the deepest part of the maze, where the legendary chakra fruit is kept. Map? Terumi Mei's eyes lit up, and he sighed in relief, leaning in front of Haruki. She wrote down the map and raised her head. His overly perfect profile came into view, and his heart was immediately moved. But at this time, she didn't have the mentality of wanting to get married when she saw beautiful men in the future. It was just out of appreciation for beautiful things. Well, appreciate it. Haruki stood up, put away the map, and said, let's go. Terumi Mei recovered and hurriedly caught up with him. A few minutes later, Haruki narrowed his eyes and stopped. What's wrong? There seems to be a treasure. Haruki glanced around, drew a katana, and cut it out against a wall. A small compartment was revealed in the dust splash. Terumi Mei is a child after all. Seeing the treasure, he immediately became interested and rushed into the room. Diamond. Her eyes were a little dull, and at least a dozen diamonds were scattered on the ground. Give it to you. Haruki glanced indifferently. In fact, it is the man-made diamonds he puts, the real value, that's it. No, 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 Terumi Mei was very principled. He picked up the diamond and gave him half. Haruki didn't refuse, and went on. Stop and go. In order to make the journey of the maze more real, Haruki discovered several treasures. But it was not all smooth sailing, and encountered several traps. With the strength of Chunin he showed, he and Terumi Mei managed to overcome the difficulties. At the same time, the other ninjas who entered the maze were not so lucky. Kakuzu greeted them heartily at Haruki's orders. Especially the Mandarin Orange Yagura and his group had already lost 2/3 of their manpower when they reached the depths of the maze, leaving only 2 people. But before that, Haruki and Terumi Mei had arrived. This is a beautiful temple. The mist enveloped it, and the precious white jade floor and columns were arranged in a certain proportion. Terumi Mei followed Haruki with a nervous expression on her face. A small hand gripped the corner of his clothes tightly. She was a little scared in the dark. Haruki didn't seem to see it. He contacted Kakuzu secretly. It doesn't seem to be dangerous. He used fire style to light up the surrounding environment. Terumi Mei raised her head subconsciously and saw a fruit like a pineapple floating in the air. And underneath it is a crystal column. Chakra fruit? She couldn't help muttering, does it really exist? At this moment, she suddenly felt a trance, and someone was whispering in her ear. Tell her in a very seductive voice. Eat, you can gain infinite power. Haruki witnessed Terumi Mei's sluggish expression, grabbing the fruit and gnawing. He reached out his hand on top of her head. A light red airstream poured into her body. The sunny tree disappeared. Footsteps continued to sound in the darkness. Citrus Yagura and others saw this amazing scene as soon as they came in. Terumi Mei is holding the fruit with only the remaining leaves, her small body is suspended in the air, and the thick chakra is like a child cheering around her, constantly breathing reddish gas. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 147. Danzo Attack. 5th. Terumi Mei. Citrus Yagura's face change. How could this guy be here and still eat the chakra fruit? No, the point is that the legendary chakra fruit actually exists? He hurried forward, but stopped suddenly. The chakra nature transformation surrounding Terumi Mei turned into a light red slime, like magma, but without any heat. The reason why he stopped was because he saw this slime dripping on the white jade ground, slowly dissolving unexpectedly. If Haruki were here, he would tell him that Terumi Mei's lava style can corrode and dissolve even the Susanoo skeleton in Uchiha Madara Rinnegan state, not to mention this little white jade. But almost all ninjas who can reach here are Jonin, and they know very well that there is no such ninjutsu and blood inheritance boundary in the ninja world. Reminiscent of the chakra fruit she just ate, everything is self-evident. The noise immediately rose and fell. Almost everyone looked at Terumi Mei with greed in their eyes. Citrus Yagura snorted in his heart, and quickly stood in front of Terumi Mei, shouting, Do you want to be an enemy of Kirigakure? When Kirigakure said the 3 words, most of the ninjas suddenly narrowed their dangerous eyes. But at this time an idea emerged in their hearts together, that the chakra fruit is real, look for the next fruit. Citrus Yagura breathed a sigh of relief, but he was not in a good mood. Terumi Mei confirmed the authenticity of the chakra fruit. I am afraid that a thorough search will be launched in the country of water. What are you doing? Citrus Tangerine Yagura felt something, her face was ugly, and she angered. Suddenly there was a chakra floating in the crowd. As the moisture erupted, a stream of water quickly traversed a short distance, as if mercury pours into the ground, unfolding a circular prison. Also at this time, Terumi Mei opened her eyes and saw water styles attack. Without even thinking about it, Terumi Mei opened her mouth. With a bang of her body, chakra spewed out, and a light red liquid like a white cloud easily dissolved the water in the shocked and unbelievable eyes of everyone, leaving nothing behind. This is the new limit of blood succession. The ninja who took the shot shouted ecstatically. Citrus Yagura's expression suddenly became gloomy. Now that the evidence is solid, a new era is coming. Haruki witnessed all this, and couldn't help feeling a sense of being behind the scenes. He knew that starting from today, the days of the water country will be particularly lively. And his goal can be regarded as achieved. The rest is to see if Uchiha Madara and Black-White Zetsu, who don't know where, will come out. If he comes out, he will be able to track down their lair. Changing them from the dark to the light is more beneficial to yourself. Haruki turned to leave the maze, and did not meet with Terumi Mei again. She might not be in the mood to say anything to herself at this time. However, according to the strength of Yagura and Kirigakure's reputation, leaving safely is not a problem. Haruki perceives the spread, and prepares to join Tsunade and others. He frowned suddenly. There are 6 Jonin in front of Tsunade and others. Strangeness. How can there be Jonin? And it seemed to be waiting for him. Haruki kept the same speed and continued to move forward. He immediately smiled, it turned out to be the root person. Shimura Danzo did not give up. I don't know what the trick is this time. Haruki pretended not to find them. After a while, I felt that the surrounding air became thick and heavy. Haruki remained silent, and the next second, his body was pulled by a strange chakra. The scenery in his eyes changed, and he had already reached a confined space, like an underground prison. Time and space ninjutsu. Interesting. Haruki looked at the 6 people in front of him. It may be because the winning ticket is in hand, the identity is not concealed, and the root mask is worn. Perhaps I feel that there is no need to hide. What's next? The 6 root ninjas who looked at Haruki with icy eyes were a little surprised when he heard such indifferent words from him. But he ignored him. 4 of them stood around the tree, and as the purple chakra rose, a rectangular enchantment covered the tree. 4 Zen formations. Haruki nodded. Yes, he also enjoyed the same treatment as 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. Seal of the 4 elephants? He looked at the Jin of the remaining 2 people and immediately recognized the ninjutsu they use. Combining the 4 purple flame formations, he probably understands what Danzo thinks. The first 2 failures made Danzo lose his patience, and he didn't want to test anymore, and directly used the method of treating the tail beast. It is the seal technique. While Haruki was thinking about it, the other 6 people also began to seal the seal, which was the seal of the 5 elements. It seems that I have a lot of face. Haruki drew out the samurai sword in a hurry. In the cold eyes of the 6 root ninjas watching the dead, the figure disappeared in the 4 purple flames. What about people? How can it be? The 4 purple flame formations that Hokage couldn't escape, how could he? Ah. The root ninja at the front suddenly let out a scream. I saw a long knife pierced through his chest. As if from the void, no one saw the trajectory of the long sword. Without changing the color of Ching Shu's face, he withdrew his long sword and cut it again. An arc of sword light suddenly lit up in the side of the root ninja next to him, which was bitter and icy. He changed Jia Yin almost instantaneously, and a wall of water flow quickly rose from bottom to top. But it is of no use. The long knife ignored the existence of the water wall and easily passed through it. Only a slight snoring sound was heard. His ninja suit shattered with bones and flesh. Immediately, Haruki's long knife swung a phantom. The other root ninja froze, eyes sunken, with an expression of disbelief, and subconsciously put his hands on his neck. But Hurricane of Blood couldn't block it at all. Even if he is well trained, the roots of the murderous numbness also show fear at this time. Almost at the same time, the 3 of them rioted and rushed towards Haruki. But with Tsunade there will be no danger. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Haruki raised the long knife in his hand, as simple as cutting melons and vegetables, only a slight flash was seen, and 3 heads were thrown high. In just a few seconds, half of his partners were lost. The 4 of them greeted Haruki one after another when they saw Haruki. There was another flower in front of him, returning to the maze. Left, front, right, 3 directions. Too fast. They had no chance to use Jonin-level ninjutsu at all. How could there be such a fast knife? He crashed down. Haruki called Kakuzu again and left Fujiwara Island quickly while they were still confronting Yagura. Kakashi and Obito looked a little embarrassed. They should have gone through a few battles. Use physical skills. The root ninja in the middle quickly thought of a way and shouted loudly, Jin can't keep up with his sword. You can only use physical skills. As if nothing happened, he found the 4 Tsunade. Chapter 148 Madara and White Zetsu. After leaving the country of water, Haruki's desire to engage in trouble dropped drastically. In the original work, in addition to the 5 major countries and the 5 major villages, the small country and the small ninja village sandwiched in it can be said to be in a dilemma. In the end, it can only be reduced to a battlefield and be held hostage to participate. The final victory has little to do with them. The benefits are not available, but there are a lot of disadvantages. The demigod Hanzo and his rain shinobi village in the Second Ninja World War, it is because of this behavior. When Hanzo was a young man, he can be regarded as a hero. Whether he is dealing with Konoha Sanin or the samurai leader Mifune, he has a broad mind. But unfortunately, after getting older, the mentality is no longer the same as before. He cooperated with Shimura Danzo, and the Hishao organization smashed, and finally ruined Rain Shinobi Village. It's the sea again, but this time, Haruki and the others changed a steamship. On the deck, Kakashi and Obito are playing against each other. According to Haruki's orders, the 2 could not use ninjutsu, nor were they allowed to destroy any place on the ship. Therefore, the battle between the 2 people seems to be restrained, relying only on physical skills. Kakashi is first rate for 2 days, Obito has Sharingan, and it's alright for a while. Nohara Lin is the only audience. However, as a member of the cheerleader, she cheered for both sides. Whoever is at a disadvantage, just shout. Kakashi was not affected, except Obito was hot and cold. Haruki glanced at it and knew that Obito was about to lose. But he didn't say anything. After all, Lin Nohara's behavior was instigated by him. The Land of Water set off a treasure hunt for the whole people, and went through the various islands, but still did not find the so-called chakra fruit. Kakuzu has become Haruki's intelligence agent. His contacts in the water country are more extensive than those of Haruki. Under Haruki's money offensive, his body was honestly convinced. At this time, half a month has passed since they left the land of water. Because of Terumi Mei's example, no one doubts the authenticity of the story anymore. It looks good. The sunny tree lay on the deck, the awning blocked the sun, and there was a glass of watermelon juice next to it, which was very pleasant. But if they can't find the chakra fruit, will they have doubts? Kakuzu sat aside, also holding a glass of watermelon juice. Well, this melon is cut by Kakashi, and the juice is squeezed by Obito. He has Sharingan and can clearly squeeze the watermelon evenly and pick out the watermelon seeds. The famous name is to exercise chakra control ability. Of course Obito didn't believe it. It was just unexpected that after Kakashi became a fruit ninja, he developed a new function, a juicer. Will not. Haruki shook his head and said, I saw more than one ninja in the scene of the day, and they are almost the backbone of the major ninjas, the kind that can be said. Not to mention the case of Terumi Mei for so many years, and they must have them too. Prepare mentally. After a long period of useless work, there may not be such a good effect. This is natural. Haruki took a sip of watermelon juice, and the coolness made people happy. I just need them to stay hot for 7 years. 7 years? Is there anything to say? Kakuzu asked suspiciously. 7 is a very magical number. What do you think will become of the Water Congress in 7 years? Haruki asked back. 7 is so magical. Kakuzu couldn't understand it. He groaned and said, it's probably the same as before the treasure hunt. No, they will decline to an unimaginable degree. Haruki smiled faintly, a smile that Kakuzu couldn't understand at the corner of his mouth. 7 years later, the Third Ninja World War broke out. With Konoha's intervention, compared with the original work, it can be described as an earth-shaking change, and he is not sure what the war will look like at that time. I don't understand. Kakuzu frowned. This is the terrible time and space. Haruki sighed. Kakuzu was still at a loss, thought about it, forget it, and continued to drink his watermelon juice. Facing the ocean, spring and blossom. To be a person who is happy and has no worries, does it not fragrant? Haruki glanced at him, always feeling that he was getting more and more salty. Think of this half a month. They traveled around the islands in the country of water and saw different scenery. If it is not for the situation to allow it, Haruki really wants to talk to Third Mizukage about how to develop the country of water. In his opinion, it is too rough. Obviously there are many resources, but Kirigakure, like Tsunade, has been reduced to the bottom. The several ninja battles in the original work are ultimately a matter of resources. Of course the fourth time is slightly different. Their next destination is the country of craftsmen. Strictly speaking, it is also a country near the sea. But how to say it, it is a country, but the area is not large, equivalent to a medium-sized island in the country of fire. If it were not for the many craftsmen, I am afraid no one would remember this country. Haruki felt more like a ninja maker disguised as a country. In the original work, the 4-day Elephant Man appeared, intending to resurrect his ancestor Kingming and confront the 5 great nations. Well, very whimsical, eventually reduced to the role of soy sauce. But the few ninjas they made are quite interesting. An armor that absorbs chakra. A sensory chakra can turn into a dragon's sword. A double sword that changes the direction of the wind and uses wind style. A sword that can shoot out light. It's a bit like the prototype of a scientific endurance. However, according to age speculation, they should be children now, or have not been born yet. Haruki will naturally not trouble them. He plans to go to the country of craftsmen to abduct a few ninja craftsmen with money. In the dim underground cavity, White Zetsu appeared in front of the huge Geto statue. Oh, Lord Madara, something has happened. The old Uchiha Madara, hearing this funny voice, slowly raised his head. He frowned and asked, you have an accident while monitoring Mikoto? Ah, this is not the kind of unscrupulous manga. I got it in the water country. The story about One Piece, it mentions the chakra tree and the chakra fruit. This does not match the knowledge he got from Black Zetsu. And this? Uchiha Madara's eyes were dangerous, and he said coldly, don't waste my time. What Roger One Piece, he was sure someone made it up. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. White Zetsu ran up to him and took out a manga. That's not it. How can anyone else know? After reading it, Uchiha Madara fell into deep thought. Apart from him and Ju, who else knows? But chakra sacred tree and chakra fruit do exist. What? He took the comic book and flipped through it quickly. Uchiha Madara intends to use the Elephant Juan technique to take a personal trip to see the remaining maze. Uchiha Madara was slightly startled. Go find a clone of White Zetsu. White Zetsu took out another scroll. It mentioned that Fujiwara treasure and Terumi Mei ate chakra fruit to obtain the record of blood inheritance. Chapter 149 Changes in Tsunade. After arriving in the country of craftsmanship, Kakuzu's vast network of contacts was rarely effective once. But Haruki didn't come to trouble either. After getting off the ship, I asked a reputable ship merchant for temporary storage, and then asked the boss for directions. The group walked leisurely for a long time, and finally arrived at the village of the craftsmen. If Konoha village can be called a large town, then the village of craftsmen is really a village. From afar, there are only a few streets, However, it is not deserted because it undertakes the ninja business of major ninja villages in major countries. There are also many lone rangers. After all, craftsmen who can make chakra knives are very rare. The only large-scale gathering is the village of craftsmen. Of course, this weapon is also relatively expensive, and the average ninja cannot afford it. In the original work, the more existential chakra knife is the weapon of Sarutobi Asuma. Haruki can see the wealth of the village of the craftsmen. The village is not large, but the buildings are quite luxurious, and the streets are unusually clean and spacious. Walking among them, you can hear the sonorous sound of iron strikes from time to time. If you are more sensitive, you can notice that the temperature is higher than outside the village. Haruki stayed here for a week, mainly for Kakashi to create 2 samurai swords. Immediately using the Flying Thunder God technique, the 32 craftsmen recruited were sent to the research office in Akihabara. Of course, there are only 2 masters. The rest of the people are used to living in the village of the craftsmen and are not short of money, so Haruki can't help it. After the journey to the country of craftsmanship, Haruki almost went to the country and Shinobu village in the southeast of the country of fire. Now the country of the wind and the country of the river are further up. After a little thought, Haruki heads to Tsunade, the country of wind. It has been almost 4 months since Konoha left. The diary recorded every night is also full of social investigations. His goal can be regarded as achieved, and if he continues, it really becomes a pure tourism. Revisit the old place. Tsunade is no longer the original Tsunade. Haruki didn't notify 3rd Kazekage and chose to enter the village quietly so that he could appreciate the changes in Tsunade. The first is the result of afforestation. Originally, the world was full of yellow sand, but now most of it is covered by towering populous Euphratica and brightly colored Shaguazao. 3rd Kazekage constructed a special protective cover over the entire Tsunade at Haruki's suggestion. It has the function of collecting solar energy and filtering sand. The conversion of solar energy into electricity illuminates every house in Tsunade. The second is infrastructure. In addition to an underground railway to Konoha, the main oasis of Mizuno is also connected by railway. Regarding the railway, Haruki knew what agreement they seemed to have reached with the daimyo, but he did not know the specific content. There are railways, so naturally there are roads. Compared to the last time, the streets of Tsunade have been expanded at least 3 times. Haruki looked around, and from time to time, he could see the horse-drawn carriages roaring by, especially in front of the shop of Jin Yuliang. Judging from the dressing, they should not be ninjas. There is also a major infrastructure project, the water conservancy system. 3rd Kazekage spent a huge amount of time building reservoirs and underground rivers to connect the water country and solve the water shortage and irrigation problems. Then there is ore. 2 kinds of minerals are mainly mined now, iron ore and gold ore. Well, 3rd Kazekage and the future 4th Kazekage played a huge role as miners. Iron ore is no less important than gold ore, and it can play a role in all places. Such as ninja utensils, kitchen utensils, farm tools, construction, shipbuilding, machinery and so on. In order to alleviate the work pressure of the 3rd Kazekage plans to recruit disciples in the water country to find a successor to magnet style. Finally, fruit, especially watermelons and grapes are planted the most. While Haruki was observing the changes in Tsunade, the reactions of the others were different. Tsunade knew what he planned for Tsunade, after all, he had participated in it. But such an earth-shaking change really surprised her. It felt like a chaotic entry into another world. Haruki actually felt similar to her. But he can understand. Because of his previous life, his primary school, middle school, and university were all expanded and renovated every time he graduated. Going back a few times, I can hardly recognize each other. The past chalks and blackboards have basically been replaced by multimedia. All classrooms are air-conditioned and that kind of low-rise tiled house is even more impossible. Except for schools, other changes are similar. Transportation, electronic transactions, the internet, express delivery, etc. It's all the same every day. Tsunade can only be regarded as a small scene. Without knowing that Haruki planned for Tsunade's Kakuzu, Kakashi, Obito, and Nohara Lin, the inner shock was beyond words. Kakuzu was a little more calm, but the Kakashi trio hadn't learned to hide their emotions, each of them opened their eyes wide and covered their mouths. In their impression, all the Tsunade described to them by their elders or friends are not right. However, Haruki thought of one thing. No matter how dull Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo are, they should understand Tsunade now. This may be one of the reasons why Sarutobi Hiruzen allowed Danzo to assassinate himself. But to be honest, according to their thinking, they may not feel that these environmental changes have much impact. They only value the changes in the ninja's strength. Ninjas need years and more than 10 years of growth. For the time being, Tsunade is far weaker than Konoha village in the military. If you really want to start a war, what Haruki has done is useless. However, the thinking of Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo is too limited. In this situation, as long as Konoha does not take the initiative to attack, Tsunade will never betray. Haruki glanced at Tsunade. Maybe it's time to replace Hokage. His hard work can't let Sarutobi Hiruzen them ruin. Before getting close to the Hokage building, Haruki saw 3rd Kazekage and Chiyo. He raised his eyebrows, not surprisingly. He had never hidden his figure, and had entered Tsunade. None of this was discovered. It can only be said that Feng Ying is too incompetent. Haruki, long time no see. 3rd Kazekage greeted him with a spring face. It can be seen that his little life is going well. Also, before, Tenten looked at his loss-making account books, and it was a problem if he felt that way. And now his favorite is to flip through the revenue when nothing happens. How many tens of thousands have been earned today? Do you want to go for amusement tomorrow? Should you go to inspect the day after tomorrow? Such a life is really unpretentious and boring. Of course 3rd Kazekage knows who brought it all. So after receiving Haruki's news, he immediately went out to greet him with Chiyo, who was talking about the matter. And Chiyo looked at Haruki and Tsunade's eyes without much hatred. Everyone is just looking for their own masters. Now it's an alliance, there is no need to make a frown. Haruki greeted Chiyo again, looked at 3rd Kazekage and asked, "Why didn't you see Rosa?" "Oh, he is mining underground." 3rd Kazekage beckoned and asked Anbu to come over. "You go and inform him that Haruki is here. I think he will be very happy." Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 150 Rosin Maiden, 3rd Moor, the hills not far from Tsunade. The channel in the middle reaches deep underground. Luo Sha is wearing a sand mask, her eyes are numb, and her hands form an instinctive reaction to refine the placer gold against the big pit in front. Under the lead of Chakra, the gold dust flew behind him. A ninja immediately caught it and fell into a large container that looked like a water tank. After an hour, the container could no longer fit, and the 2 ninjas carried it and placed it on the train. Just wait for the train to be fully loaded and head to Tsunade. At this moment, an Anbu ninja appeared in front of Luosha. "Master Luosha. Is there a problem?" Luo Sha regained some radiance in his eyes. According to his usual work, it is not yet time to get off work. "Master Feng Ying wants you to go to the Feng Ying building." "Oh," Luo Sha's spirit was shocked, and it seems that today's work can end early. Specifically is, he stopped Chakra, patted the dust on his body again, and prepared to meet 3rd Kazekage. "It's Haruki-sama visiting today." Luo Sha froze. "Who are you talking about?" He didn't want to believe it at all, and with the slightest possibility of misheard, he confirmed again. "Konoha's Haruki-sama. No, you tell Feng Ying that I still have to work, and the task has not been completed." Luo Sha waved her hands in horror. "I love work, work loves me, no one can take it apart." Anbu's ninja was stunned, a little confused. Is Haruki-sama terrible? But in his opinion, it was Haruki who gave them hope. "Then I go back and report to Master Feng Ying?" He glanced at Luo Sha hesitantly. "And many more." Luo Sha sighed, as if she was going to die, and said, "I'm going." Thinking this way, he left the mine. The yellow sand was blown up by the wind. And his mood is the same, drifting and lonely. Back at the Wind Shadow building, he knocked on the door and saw Haruki, who was chatting with 3rd Kazekage. As for Kakuzu and Tsunade, they were naturally ignored by him. Luo Sha hesitated for a second, and greeted in a calm tone as much as possible, "Master Haruki." "It's Luosha." A smile appeared at the corner of Haruki's mouth. He could see Luo Sha's reluctance, but there is no alternative. Rosha nodded silently, and immediately stood behind 3rd Kazekage, calmly making an ornament. "Read the Tao at the same time. You can't see me, you can't see me." "Haruki, this wine you said can really be welcomed by the nobles?" 3rd Kazekage glanced at him, without saying anything, and continued to talk about the topic with Haruki. "Wine." Haruki smiled and said, "Naturally." Although he was not accustomed to drinking wine in his previous life, it was indeed very popular both at home and abroad. "With a little operation, making money is easy. In that case, I will send someone to study it." 3rd Kazekage nodded quickly when he saw that he was very sure. Facts have long proved that what Haruki said is not aimless. Luo Sha snorted when she heard the words, but immediately thought that this winemaking would never be her turn. "What else needs to be improved?" 3rd Kazekage asked again. It is rare that Haruki came here, so he naturally wanted to ask clearly. Although he is confident that he is doing well, he is still very humble in front of Haruki. Haruki thought for a moment, then shook his head slightly and said, "There is nothing to improve." 3rd Kazekage breathed a sigh of relief. He was a little afraid that Haruki would point out the loopholes in his work. The two chatted a few more words. 3rd Kazekage asked Rasha to take Haruki and his party to rest while preparing the richest dinner. After arriving in the guest room, Haruki stopped Luosha. "Master Haruki, what's the matter?" The alarm bell in Luosha's heart was loud, and she looked at him a little nervously. "Nothing, I want to meet Sasori." Haruki noticed his expression and couldn't help but smile. "Isn't it just asking you to mine? As for defending me like a thief?" "Oh, come with me." Luo Sha saw that it had nothing to do with him and suddenly recovered indifferent. He took Haruki to Chiyo's home, Master Luosha. The maid who took care of Sasori opened the door and bowed quickly. After Luo Sha explained her intention, the maid immediately pointed to the second floor. "Master Sasori, I made puppets in the puppet room on the second floor, and I specifically told you not to disturb. It doesn't matter, we just go. Rosa understands the maid. Since Sasori's parents died, he has become colder, so she is a little scared. Especially when he is addicted to puppets. Luo Sha went upstairs. He knocked on the door and said, Sasori, Haruki-sama specially came to see you. The door opened instantly, revealing Sasori's head. There is a rare smile on his always gloomy face. Master Haruki, please come in. Sasori let the body. After Haruki entered the door, he looked at the puppet room. The various parts and tools are reminiscent of the workshop. Luo Sha did not come in, and left after saying a word. Haruki didn't care. He asked, when the placer gold was handed over last time, Luo Sha said that you have new ideas about puppets. I wonder if there is progress now? When Sasori talked about this, the expression on his face changed. There is a feeling of being very confident in the whole person coming alive. After the death of his parents, all his thoughts and concentration were concentrated on the puppet. And Haruki is considered his only confidant at the moment. Although Chiyo is far better than Haruki on the puppet, she doesn't know her grandson well. Master Haruki, you wait. Sasori immediately fetched the escalator in the corner, looked at the ceiling slightly, and opened the compartment at a specific location. Haruki was a little surprised. I didn't expect Sasori to be so mysterious. A few seconds after Sasori entered the compartment, a voice rang. Immature also contains a sense of pause, not as fluent as normal human speech. Puppet 001 is activated, please enter the instruction. The instructions are correct. Sasori jumped down again. After that, a thin body appeared at the door of the compartment. Similar to Sasori, he is only 5 or 6 years old. Wearing a bright red gothic dress, his small face was smooth and white, with a strange appearance. Long golden hair, blue eyes, and white socks, Haruki was in a trance. This is different from the puppet he imagined. Number 001, I have come down to see Master Haruki. There is a hint of Uzumaki in the girl's eyes made of gems. When she heard Sasori's words, her expression seemed to come alive. Landing gracefully. Facing Haruki, he held the hem of the skirt with both hands as a courtesy. Haruki came back to his senses. He felt that the girl was a little familiar at the moment. Rosin Maiden. It is the doll he mentioned when chatting with Sasori. There is something wrong with you, guy. Obviously I talked about Gundam and future robots at most, so why did you choose Rosin Maiden? Haruki looked at Sasori subconsciously. Notice the smile on his face. Maybe it's just because the Rosin Maiden is exactly the same as humans, which can ease his loneliness. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running.